Hi, everybody. We've got a really packed show today. Looking forward to this one. Happy Tuesday. And you can see what day it is if you're looking at the slides. Coach's Corner as usual, John Emmett. We have a special this day in history. Live guests standing by here over on the other side of San Francisco. Chris Ray is with us. And Bravo Zulu to Dave Oldman Perry, who has won the Oak Cliff World Match Racing. This would be WMRT. I'm talking to that graphics department, Julia. AC Trivia Challenge, a new feature by Ed Worley. We're going to have that. We have a new feature also, Pedro's Personal Perspective.
Oh, good.
From Peter Stevenson down in Australia. As usual, Corrector Crutonic, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, and much more as we welcome Ed Worley, who we said he's here in California, Gordon Smith in Denmark, John Lammerts van Buren in Holland. Hi, John. Ted Ryman, as usual, down in Cape Town. Christopher Gillingham, thank you, welcoming us home to San Francisco from he and his wife, Jane. Tier DeYoung is in SoCal. Jay Rendell, hi, Jay.
Ted.
Gordon Smith, we mentioned. Don Lunabos, Alistair Murray, as we get this one on the road.
3, 2, 1.
Off the dock, I should say. First comment of substance, well, they're all of substance, but David James of St. Francis, fellow St. Francis member. Hello, Mr. Ray, calling you Mr. Ray. I am so pleased to see you on Sailing Illustrated. Your photographs are a source of joy to me. Do you think Diane Beeston as an inspiration or a rival? Cheers, David James. So that's going to be the first question that we will ask C. Ray, who is standing by at his beautiful home here in San Francisco. Julia, I trust you are well.
Yes.
Any hot tips?
We're about to have summer come this weekend.
It's going to get warm. Going to get warm down in San Diego. It's going to be really warm down there.
Yeah.
Down there as well. My co-host, the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, Julia Veda-Kent. We should give her some wild applause. Huh? We've never done that before, Julia. And welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us. It's good to be back in San Francisco. Still a little bit on vacation. I took so much shiza.
Yes.
From Chris Ray and from Julia about not shaving, but you can't,
Can't please
I'll do it
everybody.
before Friday, maybe. I hope so.
Oh,
And then maybe when we get to Corrector Crutonic, we don't want to talk about personal stuff, do we, Julia? Huh? I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Welcome to the show number 548 for Tuesday, the 30th of August, our last August show, right? Tomorrow's the 31st. We'll be into September. Coming up here on our Labor Day weekend here, it's our 3-day weekend this coming weekend, which marks, at least for most of us, the end of our unofficial summer here, summer at least in the U.S., Northern Hemisphere, Canada even, not so much the Northern Hemisphere.
it's the beginning of summer weather for San Francisco.
Well, finally, we do get a day or two of summer weather, right?
It's going to get hot this weekend.
Good.
It's been 60 all summer.
It's 61 every day here and 55 at night, as many of you will know. Luca Craig, greetings from sunny Tauranga down in Auckland, just outside of Auckland. TFE is doing an Emmett. Yes, that is true, which, if John Emmett can do it, why can't I channel him, Julia? Crutonicism. Homeless Illustrated, Gordon Smith. Pedro is off for a walk now. We missed you, Tom and Julia. And Pedro, we're going to run your segment here later in the show. Alistair Murray is off for a chilly early morning ride in Melbourne. Hi, Tom Fishbeck down in Newport Beach. And on and on and on. We got a great crowd here and a great show for you. Let's get into it, shall we? As usual, we like to do the pre-start. Castle Cove Sailing Club in Weymouth. A nice photo from our Fozy John Emmett, the esteemed Olympic coach. And I want to thank all of you who tuned in to last Friday's show, actually. I did do a show Friday. Last Tuesday's show, when I took a week off, went to Michigan, visited my mom and dad, who are both pressing 90. They're in their late 80s. And I haven't seen them since pre-pandemic, and everybody's worried about COVID and flying and everything else. But we had a great time. This hat, which I saw on a number of people wandering around in Ann Arbor, so I brought one back for my fellow Michigander, C. Ray, who I'm going to bring on at this point. Chris, I gave it to you last night over at the yacht club. Do you like that hat? Oh, he's got it. You know what that is, Julia?
Yes, ginger ale.
What kind of ginger ale?
I don't know.
It's Werner's ginger
Werner's.
ale, made in Detroit in Detroit, Michigan.
Uh-huh.
Spicy. Chris Ray, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Glad to be with you.
We're going to see a number of Chris's photos. He's really got he's one of these photographers, like a couple of our friends down at Newport Beach and any number of other clubs. And one of the things I'm going to ask Chris to do is, because it's largely a volunteer effort, to tell us, Chris, about what you do, why you do it, and why you've done it for so long for St. Francis Yacht Club, of which all three of us are keen members, Julia as well. And you've got a new book coming out, the proceeds of which are going to go to the St. Francis Sailing Foundation, raising money for Olympians and other worthy kids and young sailors, for the most part, going off to events.
One of the wonderful things about Chris is that he has a whole bunch of books, and lots of us sort of lose our not so good pictures sometimes, but he has treasures of good pictures, and he really does publish them, and they're not just sailing pictures; they're just.
We're going to cover that.
Yeah.
You'd think poorly of me if we didn't have that in the show.
I would.
Well, we're going to get to that, and it was a great time in Michigan last week at my home club. Those of you who tuned in Tuesday, I showed some videos, and we had Clark Chapin joined us just 2 minutes before the show. Gordon Smith sent a very nice comment. How great was that to share your home club last time out? Lovely spot, and fishing possible from the veranda. Totally, not quite, but totally reminded me of my visit when very young to my mother's hometown in Canada. Oh, Canada, not so very far north of you. Really great to have you share it with all of us. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, Gordon. Don't you think that was nice?
Yes,
of Gordon to send
it
that.
was.
And I want to thank Clark Chapin, because Clark, this is a shot from, gosh, it must be 20 plus years ago, sailing his Interlake. They still have that same boat. We raced against Clark Thursday night, and this is his late great father on the right, Gordon Chapin, past Commodore of our club, and his son, Billy, Clark's son, Billy Chapin, who lives here in the Bay Area now. So that is 3 generations of Chapins, and I want to thank Clark, who joined me at the cottage there next door to the club for that show last Tuesday. It was really fun to have Clark, who is a keen racing sailor and a race officer and judge, and a major contributor to our sport for many, many years at the U.S. sailing level and through the Class Association, been past president of the Interlake Class Association, past Commodore of our club. He's just one of these great spark plugs, as are many of you. I just posted on my Facebook page, and thanks, Bill Wingrove, a write-up by my mother, Jan Davis, about the history of our Portage Yacht Club, which was originally Huron Portage Yacht Club. And thank you for that note, Bill, because I think people will enjoy that, as we all like to learn about each other's club. Thanks, Gordon Smith, again for your kind comment. Julie Aarons checking in from Cleveland, sunny Cleveland, she said. Clark Chapin, thank you. Several of you asked for a little more background. This club was a bathing club. It was a ramshackle, what would you call that, Julia? A bathing beach club, seasonal building, wooden building from the 1930s, built during the Depression era here in the States. This is a painting from circa 1970, and it was called, for reasons none of us, I asked my dad about this, none of us really know, it was called Newport Beach Club. And I don't know if people thought that would be good marketing, Julia, or...
Well, there was a beach. That's where people were there.
But Newport Beach, why not Portage Beach? Why not Ann Arbor Beach? Why not Son of a Beach? I mean...
Because it was new.
I guess. Newport Beach. I think they thought that Newport Beach, California was sexy, like Chris Exley is, and beautiful Salem, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So that's what the club used to look like, with 200 sailboats, I told you. And now today it's mostly power boats. This clubhouse we built in the 90s. I actually went back, and Leslie and I and Meg spent a few years there before we moved to Europe. My dad rebuilt the clubhouse, and I helped run the business at my home club, which is now called Portage Yacht Club. There's a view from the lake, and you can see all the pontoon boats. And the little cottage there on the right, the white cottage where I spent the week. And that was the weather. It was pretty nice, not too hot, not too humid. Great sailing on that lake. It's a deep lake. This Interlake class, these are the big boats. Laser Sunfish are the small boats and a couple others. But the Interlake, 18-foot Interlake, as we said on the show, designed by Francis Swiesguth. Julie Ahrens from your neck of the woods down there from Lake Erie. And he designed the Interlake. It's an 18-foot hard chine boat, looks like a big snipe maybe. And he designed it as a junior trainer for the Starboat on Great Lakes. He also designed the Star. Francis Swiesguth, good German name, did. They added a spinnaker. It was originally just main and jib, sloop rigged, and they added a kite in the 60s. And interestingly, I don't know if Clark and I talked about this, but at our club now, because it's so difficult to get crew, and because people, the whole population has aged that are in the sailing crowd, Julia, that club and that class, that fleet rather, not the class, but that fleet is sailing without spinnaker, like the Canards do out here on San Francisco Bay. So I had to relearn how to sail that boat without a spinnaker because it's quite different. And I do still know how to sail. I'm pleased to report. It was
at least found out.
It was. Here's a little bit of an excerpt from the Thursday night. We had 3 races Thursday night, and we won 2 and took third in the other. So we won the evening. There's Clark Chapin, who we were covering. This is late in the evening. That was our lead in the first race, Julie. We had a pretty good start and a kind of a half a leg lead going up the second weather leg. So we did well. We had a lot of fun. We had a family reunion. There is my beloved mother, Jan Davis, entertaining her. Julia, she brought 5 people from her old folks' home.
Oh, good.
It was terrific. They came out.
Yeah.
And see the lady in the foreground? What do you call that? A zither or a zit? I can't remember what you call that instrument. But so that lady's from her old folks' home, and she came out and entertained the family and friends. It was a big family reunion on Saturday. A lot of fun. We played all the old songs. I can't get no satisfaction.
Yes.
And that was.
And I tried, and I tried.
I tried. And we sang Summertime, and the living is easy. So it was good fun, great fun. My mother's good sport for having organized that group. A lot of people, too, showed up. We were pleasantly surprised. But let's get on with show number 548 for Tuesday, the 30th of August. Thank you for joining us, and thanks to Chris Ray, who's agreed to come on today and share his knowledge of the sport and his fabulous photos. I mean, for a guy who's largely an amateur, I think he's made a few bucks along the ways, but the guy has just done an amazing job. You know, we've been fortunate to have Daniel Forster and a couple others, and now we've got Sea Ray with us. His nickname is Sea Ray, and we'll tell you why in a moment. But Chris, Julia, do you know what day it is today?
Sea Ray Day.
No? Your mic's up, Chris.
If I'm on, it's Ty Cobb's debut with the Detroit Tigers in 1905.
Oh, my God.
Today.
And didn't we, in the tech check, mention, you mentioned the, what was her name? Shelley.
Mary Shelley, the authoress of Frankenstein, was born today in 1797. I
didn't realize that the first Frankenstein book was written in the early 1800s, before the America's Cup. So what is today?
Burgundy.
Close. Today is International Cab Sav Day. I didn't know there was such a thing, but as most of you will know, this is it's a drinking show, Chris, with a sailing habit. The world celebrates International Cabernet Sauvignon Day every year on August 30th. I did not know that. This holiday honors the fine quality and the deep berry flavor that have come to define Cab Sav wines. This grapevine variety dates back, I did not know this, to the 17th century, the 1600s, the offspring of a chance crossing between the Cabernet Franc and the Sauvignon Blanc grapes. Cabernet Cab Sav is now one of the most renowned grape varieties and synonymous with class and refined taste. I thought Pinot Noir was, but overall, Cabernet Sauvignon deserves more than just a day to celebrate its enduring legacy. Now, with that, Chris, I'll come to you because I know you and your wife like to drink.
Good
at least
wines.
This time of year, you like to drink what?
Bordeaux.
Well,
Absolutely.
But how about the Whispering Angel you were drinking at the YC last night?
Well, true enough, a little rosé on a sunny day is hard to beat, especially if it's from Provence. So,
Okay. Andrew, lots of comments on here. Fun memories at HPYC, which was the original name of our sailing. Our racing organization will turn 70 next year. So it's been around. Fun memories, Barbara Weir is saying, fun memories at HPYC here in Portage Yacht Club was named that because there's several Portage lakes, as Clark and I discussed, and we are side saddled with the Huron River, hence here in Portage Yacht Club. Ken Saban knows it well. He's just down the street about 35, 40 miles in Toledo, Ohio. Thanks, Chrissy. I'm glad somebody likes the beard because Julia sure doesn't.
No.
Chris doesn't. Andrew Pindar replying to Chris, actually not sure that's a beard. Looks more like his eyebrows have come down for a drink.
Perfect.
Ouch.
Andrew, I love
Ouch. Ouch.
It does. Now that I think about it.
Andrew Pindar is always entertaining from the UK. David James, unfortunately, sailing seems to have destroyed itself in almost every venue. We used to have dozens of Islander 36s and Peterson 44s, Cal 34s and such, and they are all gone. Yeah, we're going to have to do a rethink about what's going on with our sport, I think, as you all know. But so much for International Cab Sav Day. And, of course, we've switched, Julia, to
Tequila.
tequila soda. We got to find if there's a tequila day.
There is.
Didn't we celebrate that not too long
Yeah.
ago? I think there's two even. Yes, Chris Ray is with us here at the starting line. As usual, we like to start with our esteemed coach and friend and foesy, John Emmett, with the Coach's Corner. And he checked in earlier today with a nice video from Weymouth in the UK.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Foesy. I'm here of an evening at Castle Cove Sailing Club, once again doing the club racing. Did it today in an aero, lots of fun and just really nice to have the social aspect. Last week there was no show, but I was doing the ILCA, I still find it hard to say ILCA rather than laser, Skills Week, so it's lots and lots of young people. And some of them for their first time in a class, so it's really nice to be involved with that. We had, I think, 83 boats at the UKLA. Just done a little video for YouTube if you're interested to see what was going on there. And I just think we're so lucky to do our sport. We say that Sailing Illustrated is a sailing show with a politics problem, or maybe a drink problem occasionally. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Ukraine, because I just feel so privileged to leave the life we do. Like a bad day at the office for me is when I'm not allowed to go out in the bay to go sailing. So, and I have to stay in beautiful Portland Harbour. But I did want to talk to you very quickly about the Ukraine, because we're coming up to that 200 days. And I think anyone who thought it was going to be a short-lived affair, it certainly isn't. It's very sad. It's a war of attrition, and as much as anything, it's an economic war. And people probably realise that Russia's not a richer country as they might expect. I mean, the GDP is less than Germany, UK, France, Italy, etc. And this thing's just going to go on and on. So it's just so nice to meet people, have a sail, have a beer. So I won't talk too much about that now. When we get into the sailing club, you hear a little bit of background noise. So I think it's probably dinner time. Coming towards the end of the season, but here we go. So going to just join the table, which is closest by the bar, if anyone's interested, and that's pretty much it. Cheers.
Thank you, John. Another terrific report. What a stalwart he's been. We have to get Clark Chapin to go back and see how many reports he's actually done for us.
At least a couple hundred.
And definitely have to get Graham on film.
I don't know if it's that many, but he's certainly done a lot, and we appreciate all of them. It's John Emmett. Get to the front of the fleet. John Emmett Sailing, who's a terrific coach. And by the way, I heard, Julia, from him today, he is headed to Den Haag, to The Hague,
Yeah.
for the whatever this youth, I don't know if it's the youth somethings.
Yeah.
And he is he's coaching the I can't remember what the term of art is now, but he is coaching the countries that don't have a coach.
Oh.
The developmenting, the emerging country sort of thing.
Yeah.
So John, terrific report as usual. Thank you very much. And that brings us to this day in history. Do you, Julia, or C-Ray, Chris Ray, we call C-Ray, do you know what happened on this day in history in 1987?
Well, that was an America's Cup year.
87 was an America's Cup year in Perth and Fremantle. That is true. Here's your first clue.
Oh.
There have been some comments in the comments already about this. I don't think people realized I'd use it as this day in history. Here's your second clue.
Well, there's Lily.
There's Lily. Golden Lily. Lily Zhu. Lily was born. Gordon Smith got it. He was the first one. On this day in history, 1987, she's turning 35 today. Ted Ryman's got it. Lily, indeed, there she is, autographing Coach Yourself to Win. That's John's book. And, of course, John, now her husband, was her coach when she got a gold medal 2012 there in Weymouth, in fact, when the UK hosted the Olympics. And there is her book, Golden Lily, which is, I've got a copy of it here. And
I've read it.
You've read it, right,
Yeah,
Julia?
yes.
Terrific book.
Mm-hmm.
And she had the great pleasure and honor of having Sir Ben Ainslie write the foreword, who said, Lily, as those of us in the West know her, Ligia Zhu, in fact, in China it'd be Zhu Ligia, is a true sailing champion. To date, she has won the Optimist Girls World Championship twice, the Laser Radial Women. Now, this is back when, right after 2012. She won a lot more since, or some more. The Laser Radial Women's World Championship and a gold medal in the 2012 London Olympic Games, as well as many other regional and national titles. This impressive list makes her an inspiration for sailors. Yeah, not just female sailors, but for sailors in general around the world. But as this fascinating autobiography reveals, there is far more to Lily than medals she has won. She did that with extreme adversity. She had some congenital problems with sight and hearing, which she overcame with the help of her coach, John Emmett, and many others.
She was taken out of her home at 10.
Exactly, as top athletes often are in some of those countries.
Mm-hmm.
But Bravo Zulu Tour, very happy birthday to the Olympic gold medalist 2012 in the
great picture.
Yeah, in the laser right after she won there in Weymouth. And tonight, I'm pleased to report they are in the pub all together. Now that is John and Lily, and that's John's goddaughter Ruth and her father, whose name escapes me. I just heard his name by text from John. I'm sure he will fill it in. They're in the pub celebrating Lily's birthday, and they've hoisted a glass or two. He sent a picture with the beer glass up there too. But regardless, happy birthday, this day in history, 35 years ago. She is now, John says, an official master's level sailor because she's 35.
Oh.
Seems too young to be a master if you're 35.
I know.
But congratulations, Bravo Zulu, to you all. Thank you very much. Let's get to the featured segment today with our live guest, Chris Ray, who's just across town, but with us via Skype. Chris, last night we went over to the YC, and I brought you that hat from Michigan because I knew you, being a fellow Michigander, you might like that. So your wife and our dear friend, both members, as they are, of the Beach Street Yacht Club in both Fosey, Kim Jones and Chris, and we had a glass last night, and I gave Chris his hat, and we talked for a moment, because I had another meeting to get to, and talked for a moment about the show today and what Chris is going to do. C-Ray, welcome again.
Good to be with you. It's also Warren Buffett's birthday today. He was born a little bit before Lily was, but
he's worth a few more dollars than probably Lily and even
the Wizard of Omaha.
Yeah. Than probably all of us combined. Yeah.
1930 in his case.
Huh.
Yeah. Is that when he was born?
Yeah.
So he's 90-something, 93.
Exactly.
What do you have any reaction, either of you, to what John Emmett said about the war in Ukraine? And I know, and those of you, we got a lot of Europeans on here watching. Gordon Smith saying Lily's a real sweetie to meet, very charming. Yep. But, it's going to be a tough winter for a lot of countries, especially those in Europe, because of energy. By the way, here in this country, we're starting to see, last night there was a major segment on Fox News about this whole energy crisis and about the price of fuel going up by 50% in some countries in a week, and this whole thing with Russia and the Ukraine war, and on and on and on. It's not looking good, Julia.
Yeah, it's the outline of the energy crisis, which is already upon us, and it's going to get worse.
Well, I don't know if anybody has any comments. As John says, we do talk politics on here sometime, but mostly out of sympathy for the rest of the world, because we're going to go through a tough time, as everybody's been saying. I'm not sure why we're fighting this war.
We know we got into it.
Well, I know why, but I'm not sure. But let's don't get into that. Let's get into what's going to be a very interesting topic today with Sea Ray. And Chris, your topic is my favorite racing picks, of which you sent us a couple dozen, maybe 3 dozen shots, and they're fabulous. 20 years of St. Francis Yacht Club Regatta photos by his nibs, Chris Ray, who's with us. Sea Ray, take us through these.
Well, I know. I think that you have a close-up of this particular one, but there's nothing about a Garrison flag I don't love. So
is that, Chris, is that the Yacht America?
It is.
Behind it. So that's Troy Sears's boat, and that was taken during the World Match Racing Tour event. How do I know that? Because if you go in close to the stage, Julie, you know who that is? I think that's Tucker Thompson, and I'm not sure who that is on the left, but I guarantee you that's me on the right.
Mm-hmm.
What year was that, Sea Ray? 2000?
Isn't he handsome when he shaves?
He is. He is.
You croutons.
And we took some years off you there, too, didn't we?
Well, yeah, had dark hair. That's 2008 at the World Match Racing Tour, what was called the Allianz Cup, and it was a terrific event here right in front of St. Francis.
It was a good one.
Fishbeck
really fun.
Fishbeck is saying I could advertise Dos Equis as the most interesting. I doubt that. I doubt that. Russia invaded. Okay, there's some political discussion, but Sea Ray I'm going to go back.
I just lost my picture.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh. Of the show?
Everything.
Of everything?
Mm-hmm.
Sea Ray, you still good?
I am.
Okay, well, I got to get Julia back on the air here.
There you are.
Okay.
Why don't you show the back cover of this book while we're getting Julia back?
Okay, so that's the cover of the book.
Yeah.
And then that is that's just a zoom in. That was my favorite jacket of all time. I don't have any idea where it is. And this is the back of the book. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, that's right.
And then tell us what this book is, too.
Well, you were talking about what a great event this was. It literally happened right in front of the grill room because we had a northerly breeze, which is rare, but it was late in the year. And so we got a northerly breeze. So the windward mark was almost due north, which is really a weird situation for us. But in this particular picture, we have a soon-to-be Commodore of the St. Francis Yacht Club, Chris Perkins, who was an accountant for Oracle Racing at that time, and his boss, Chris Dixon, in a match race. Well, Chris Perkins has pinned Chris Dixon right into the start boat, the W.L. Stewart here, a moment that Chris Perkins was very proud of. It had to be, Larry was not as impressed as Chris thought he would be, though. And so he had to go back to being an accountant pretty quickly after this shot. But it's a fun picture.
And it was a fun regatta. And not only those two, I mean, Chris Perkins is local. He's now our rear commodore at St. Francis. But he and his family, his brothers, are superb sailors, all of them. And that whole regatta was full of superb sailors at the level of Chris Dixon, as the World Match Racing Tour in those days was the big deal. Chris, let's look at some stats that you've done here. Tell us, you've taken 500,000 pics in the last 20 years?
Yeah, about 25,000 a year of regattas that the St. Francis has. Remembering that St. Francis has got a regatta just about every weekend of the summer, starting in March and going through October. So there's plenty of days to be out on the water. And it turns out that, I shot between 20 and 30,000 pics a year. So the challenge of that is how to keep a book like this down to 100 pages. So you're looking at 500 pictures that you have to choose from 500,000. That's quite a daunting task. I actually got down to 5,000 pretty quickly by just deciding to take pictures that included a number of actions going on instead of just one boat looking particularly gorgeous. So it was usually action at a mark or somebody doing something or something that was multiple aspects. So that got me to 5,000. But from 5,000 to 500 that's a real battle.
Tell us some more about the book, though. You self-publish these things, right?
Yeah, that's right. This is it's a digital. It comes out of your camera, digitally goes into your computer. You upload them to your website, and there's a place from there to a self-publishing operation called Blurb that's located here in San Francisco. And so you can get to a hardback coffee table book in a relatively straightforward manner.
So you upload the photos after you've chosen them. You do the formatting. There's dozens of these companies, I suppose, that do this. And I don't know if you want to talk too much about the money, but order of magnitude, self-publishing a book. How many pages is this? 100 pages?
This is 100 pages, and the beauty is you can do them one at a time. That's good, and they take 2 to 3 weeks to arrive. That's great. But one at a time, 12 by 12 coffee table book with 100 pages in it's $120 to begin with. So if you can order them 1,000 at a time, of course they go way down.
But that is $120 for 100 pages is your cost.
That's the cost to the publisher who's doing it himself. Now there can be more if you start adding bells and whistles, and of course I can't resist, so it might are more expensive.
Well, it seems pretty reasonable to me. That's barely over $1 a page, I suppose.
Yeah, if you're going to do something for your family as a remembrance, Kim and I had the pleasure of going on a trip to Cabernet Sauvignon country in France, otherwise known as Bordeaux. With 28 other people a couple of years ago, and I did a book for the people who did that trip with us, which was much appreciated, and had the history of each of the vineyards we stopped at and such. Was quite a nice thing, and it'd be difficult to do something like that in another way.
But you're now publishing this book, and you're making it for sale, not to make money, and you're hopefully going to recover your costs, but you're doing it for St. Francis Yacht Club as a fundraiser, as I understand.
Right. This is the profits for this book are going to the St. Francis Sailing Foundation, which benefits our Olympic and youth programs. It's my wife came up with this idea, and I was wholeheartedly supported it immediately. It's just a great thing. So we'll show at the end of the talk a QR code. You can go see these if you're interested, or they'll be available in the catch-all inside the St. Francis before too much longer also.
Or they can ping Julia and myself, and we'll get them in touch with you if need be, and in the comments. But I think the interesting thing is not only what you're doing for St. Francis, it's and I'm sure other clubs are doing this. I haven't heard about it, but I assume other clubs are doing it. Similar.
One of the things I think is wonderful about clubs is that ask Chris how he learned to take pictures.
We're going to get to that in a sec.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a sec. But first of all, I got a question from Stingray, who's our FOSI extraordinaire up in Seattle. He goes by a nickname, and he loves his Stingray automobile. You being a Detroit boy, Chris, would know about. Turn over your left shoulder and tell us what that painting is over your shoulder.
Behind you.
You're talking about this?
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
This is actually, I've had 2 compliments paid to me from my tenure as a photographer, a self-proclaimed official photographer of the St. Francis. And one of them had to do with this picture. A famous local artist, and you've got a painting of his over your shoulder as well, Jim DeWitt, gave me that painting as a bribe so that I would not give him trouble about taking my photographs off my website and painting them, which I was one of the most heartfelt compliments I've ever received in any way, shape, or form. That's the copying is the most sincere form of flattery. So this is that was it. And the other compliment that I received was a bowman who's no longer doing the bow because of his back. But the fellow sock, Mike Mahoney, said to me, I overheard a conversation at the bar the other day about a guy who was getting his spinnaker in a huge twist, and the conversation between folks up there trying to limit the number of shrimp they caught was saying, "Boy, I sure hope Chris Ray's not."
not getting it. Yeah, Jimmy DeWitt, as you know, C. Ray, that's behind me is a DeWitt, and I've got, as you know, being a Beach Street Yacht Club member, and we've had some C. Ray, Julia, some C. Ray. What should I say? Slideshows here,
Yes.
picture shows when
Yes.
they've come back from it. He and Kim have come back
Yes.
from it.
Yes.
So it's a nice form of our regular entertainment. Gordon Smith is talking about blurb.com as well. And he said that he's done the same, but for a very small number of copies. Check the site out. Different options cost different amounts. Hi, Pia Lord, checking in from Florida, and Stingray saying DeWitt. Yeah. Jim, as David James knows, being a local here in Sausalito and a member of St. Fran, Jim is also a pretty good sailmaker and sailor. He's a Renaissance man. Alex Kent saying, yep, love DeWitt.
He was an early champion.
Yeah, he was. He won the Mallory Cup, which is the U.S. Master, U.S. U.S. Men's Championship back in the '60s, and he had a woman on his crew, which
Yes.
raised a few eyebrows.
Yes.
Not that it was prohibited; it's just that no one ever took a woman on the crew, and he said,
And besides that, she was too good.
she was good.
Yeah.
She just passed away a couple years.
Yeah.
Even
Perfect.
Grekoff, thank you for your submission. I'm going to have a shot from Yvonne at the end of the show. Yeah, DeWitt. Jimmy DeWitt, who's still with us. He's what, Chris, 90
90-something.
Julia, 90-something, right?
I can. Oh, if I had my computer, I could tell you.
Well, we've
Yeah,
okay.
Jimmy's a
Now,
great one.
I'm getting more heat here. You see now, Julia's got a new. Well, it's an iMac that we repurposed here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, and she can see both the point to your comments, Julia.
Yeah.
On the right side of the screen.
Mhm.
And then the left side of the screen is wireless transmission of the show over to a window on that screen. I'll tell you why that's good, Chris, because I can have her now look at one screen instead of two. She used to have the show on a monitor, and then she used to have her computer, and she was all the time farting around with her computer. I said, Julia, just look at your screen and then look over at me. So when you look over at me, she looks into her camera, and we get a pretty decent shot of the two of us. It's tough dealing with these. You can teach, you can't necessarily, Chris, teach old dogs new tricks.
Oh, no.
I'm getting heat again, yes, and everyone's,
Easy, buddy.
see, Ray, I'm getting a lot of heat. They're all saying you got to call me Tommy, and it's not because my dad calls me Tommy when he's mad at me. It's
Probably does, though.
quite the opposite. He would call me, you know what he called me?
Mm.
And I hated it. He called me, you remember the original, one of the early Bond flicks called Goldfinger?
Yeah.
You remember the guy who had the hat that he threw the hat?
Odd job?
Odd job. That was so you folks that are on here, that's what my dad called me growing up, was odd job, because I was
Doing odd jobs.
Well, I was good at a lot of stuff, jack of all trades, master of none, I suppose.
Sounds familiar.
But no, everybody in Michigan, because my dad's Tom Senior, and some people call Senior and Junior, but mostly it's Tom and Tommy. I've been called Tommy all my life, but and not outside of Ann Arbor, not outside of Michigan. Chris, speaking of fathers, tell us about your late great father, C.N. Ray, who was the founder of C. Ray Boats.
Correctamundo. Back to just my nicknames. As long as you don't call me late for dinner, I'm okay. But people have been calling me C. Ray since grade school. Dad creates this. He buys a garage in Southfield, Michigan in 1959 and names it C. Ray Boats at the dinner table. I remember the day vividly because C. Ray was also my nickname already, even though it wasn't SEA, it was just C. Ray. For some reason, we called each other initial and last name. It was a really tiny school I grew up in Oxford, Michigan. And I don't know why we did that, but, Here's Sea Ray boats, and this is that particularly hilarious picture of my dad because he hated ties. You couldn't get him in a tie. And it's always hilarious to see a portrait of him in a tie because you literally have to hold him on the ground and beat him up to get him to wear one.
Well, long story short, he made a lot of money producing some of the early fiberglass, not only power boats, but the early fiberglass boats. There weren't a lot of, this is in the late 50s, right? And the Rebel and the Flying Scot were just being produced also in that same area because Corning Owens, Illinois, had come after the war. They came back, Julia, and they wanted to do something they started to make landing craft with fiberglass right at the end. You know, the metal shortages, and they had this new material. So long story short, they started making landing craft for the war. And then the war wound down quickly, and they had this technology. So that Owens was it Owens Corning? Owens, Illinois, I can't remember.
Yep.
They merged in different names. So they were out shopping it around to people who might make cars or boats or God knows what. And in those days, it was very difficult to build boats with hard chines out of glass. You could have a rounded hull and lay the stuff in. This is before chopper guns and spraying the stuff in there. You had to go in there with a hand and a squeegee and resin and another layer and more resin. And it was really difficult. And they didn't know structurally how much stuff they had to put on in the mold to have the thing be robust. So they put a lot. And these boats that today might weigh 100 pounds weighed 700 pounds. Mm-hmm. But you know, when they ran them into something, the something got hurt, not the boat. Yeah. Right, Chris?
Yeah, it's a lot to that.
So your dad made a lot of money building among the very first fiberglass boats, Sea Ray, and now that's a big company owned by who?
It was bought by Brunswick, and I kind of lost touch with it after that. That was 1987, so it was a long time ago. But let's go back to that. We were talking a little bit about it at the club last night. The old fiberglass, the first ones, you know, fiberglass is that rough interior. So the inside of the boat was, if you ran your hand along it or, you know, happened to rub up against it, you'd get a rash. So Dad gets it in his head. He hires Harley Earl's design studio, who was famous for the Corvette.
Stingray, did you hear that? Stingray.
Exactly.
We're working the Corvette into this show.
Exactly. And I've got another one we'll get to in just a second. He gets it in his head that the inside of the boat ought to look nice instead of, you know, just that raw fiberglass stuff. Well, the tangential benefit to that was the missus liked the boat. So now instead of a fishing boat that the boys are going to go out in at 17 feet with an outboard, the boat was too small. We need a bigger boat now. Now we need a boat we can spend the night on. We can go to Georgian Bay, going back to Michigan, or some such thing. And now you needed a galley and a stand-up head, and you know, and there's the story of Sea Ray. The plush interior turned into fiberglass large boats. That's a very interesting thing. But back to the Corvette piece. I moved to California in 1979, putting all of my earthly possessions in my Corvette. And I drove from Detroit out to San Francisco in 1979 and thought I'd died and gone to heaven. Mm-hmm. The Tigers were terrible then. They were, you know, they got good, really good later, and they'd been good before. But
the Detroit Tigers, the famously, what used to be famously good baseball team.
Out here, there's two baseball teams.
Yeah.
There's two football teams. I mean, like I say, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
Now, your dad, by then, you'd been introduced to sailing, boating, but also sailing. Your dad ended up with this, 110-foot something.
Yeah,
called Rogue, right. And he and his, I guess, family, or you're part of his family, sailed it all over the world, right?
The guy in the corner you can see, the blonde kid, is my youngest half brother, Charlie, who's good time Charlie, and the guy below him is the captain of the boat, who apparently is keeping an eye on Dad, and yeah. Probably a smart move since it's going to be his fault if something goes wrong.
What year is that photo?
Oh, that's a great question. I think that's early 2000s. They took that boat all over the planet. Like there was a picture of him I didn't send you going through the Panama Canal in it. So a lot of people, have the captain handle all that, but they really had a blast.
Okay, so Julia wants to know, before we get to your photos, how did you get involved in sailing? What was it that brought you to St. Francis Yacht Club?
It's a club story.
It's a long story. I'll try and keep it relatively short. My wife is one of 3 girls. She's the oldest. The middle daughter got married early, and her father, my father-in-law, was a big bohemian. And he put that son-in-law up for the Bohemian Club, which takes 20 years to get into.
That's a private men's club here in San Francisco.
Right, very, very posh spot, and a great, great club. Long and short is, the middle brother-in-law was not Bohemian material. He didn't like them, and they didn't like him. So when I marry Kim, her father, is once bitten, twice shy, doesn't put me up for the Bohemian Club. No, I would have, that would have been a great thing. I would have really enjoyed that club and all that. And about 10 years into it, he starts saying, boy, what a shame that I didn't do that. So he and a buddy of his at the Bohemian Club cook up this plan to get me into the Bohemian Club because they know I can sing.
You mean into the yacht club?
Into the Bohemian
Club.
Club.
The Bohemian Club. Yeah.
So I try out for aviary. I can sing fine. They liked me, and my voice didn't ding me. But I don't read music, and they work so much all year long that they only have a rehearsal or 2 before they have to, go public with a performance. And if you can't read, you really can't hold up your end. And so they say, geez,
if you
we
can't
really liked
read
your
music.
voice. Our conductor is also the conductor of the St. Francis Yacht Club, and they're recruiting singers right now. Why don't you go over there and see how you go? Well, I joined the SOTS, on site and became a member of the SOTS and the St. Francis Yacht Club.
Hang on. You remember
In
we got
1999.
See, Ray, hang on. We got a bunch of people watching from all around the world who barely know San Francisco or St. Francis Yacht Club. The SOTS, St. Francis Yacht Club, has 2 choral groups.
Mm-hmm.
A women's group, a ladies group called the High Seas, SEAS, but a pun, and then the men's choral group, which I guess predates the ladies group, doesn't
Yes.
it? Does it, Julia? You've been around.
Yes.
Called SOTS, or Sons of the Seas, and they sing not only at club and club events, but all over the Bay Area and beyond. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely right. So
that got you into St. Francis, was singing?
Exactly. Who knew?
Who knew? And then what happened?
So I'm starting to diddle around with cameras, but I don't know anything about them. And a long-time yacht club member, a fellow named Tom Moulin, whose family has run a professional studio in San Francisco for many years. A lot of the pictures of the Pan Am Clipper and the Golden Gate Bridge in sections before it was built were all Moulin Studios work. He gives a class at the Yacht Club in 2000 called Photo Lab 2000 because he's trying to offload some of the social responsibilities of attending parties and taking pictures of people having fun inside the Yacht Club. So
he wanted to go party and not just take pictures, right?
Exactly.
I'm just guessing, yeah.
Well, no, that's exactly right. Well, I'm no good at that, but I get out and we have a picture that kind of shows it. I start taking pictures of outdoors, and our race deck and the little fence just outside our club, the races just go right by there. And all of a sudden I start taking pictures of racing sailboats and I'm hooked, really hooked.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm getting ahead of myself, if we started using some of these slides, I can illustrate.
Okay, why don't we go to that? Because Daniel Forster, who you know well from Rolex Big Boat Series events,
one of my heroes.
He's saying, I can yodel at the St. Francis Yacht Club during the RBBS. He's talking about singing. He's not going to sing, but he can yodel. Daniel, of course, is Swiss and a famously good photog, and he's been on the show. We were talking to the Tech Check, Julie, about those 2 shows. We did 2 shows with Daniel.
Yes.
Okay, Chris, let's get into your photos, and you've broken these into a few groups here. The first group is the earliest sailing pics, Roots of My Addiction, you said.
So this shot was the first one picked up by a publication. Now, I gave this to a person named Monica Lurson, who was our race office person, and I used to give them smaller photos that they could post on the website. This is so long ago that the people couldn't see photos on the web very easily unless they were really small. All right, this is taken with the digital camera, and I give her a copy of this, and the next thing I know, an Australian magazine wants to put this on a cover. Well, what? I'm just taking pictures for the yacht club. I'd never thought about any of this kind of stuff. Well, as it turns out, there's a kiter, a windsurfer, and an Australian 18, which are the competitors in the Ronstand Bridge to Bridge race that happened just a couple days ago here this last week. And this is the first time all the different competitor styles was in one photo. So who knew? Now, this is, back then a digital camera might have 1 megabyte. So there's no way that it could be made large enough to give him 300 dots per inch that he'd need for an 8.5 by 11 cover for his magazine. So, that was a little bit of a fool's errand, but it is illustrative of a little bit more of how I got dragged into this. Why don't you show the next slide?
Just before we leave it, we got to go and say that the Ronstand Bridge to Bridge, which is, we won't go into describing it here, but this will be music to Alistair Murray's ears, who's, I think, just out riding his bike instead of watching. He'll watch the show and replay. Didn't he send us, Julia, some?
I sent it to him.
Oh, you sent it to him. Okay, well, we're going to cover that because Alistair Murray contributes to the show regularly now in a thing called Alistair's Awesome Aussie Anecdote.
Yeah.
And the 18s, the IDeans have been here on and off, and lots of comments. Andrew Pindar picked it up right away that was a skiff, and David James is asking, hang on, LAN, L-A-N-N, where I bought AGFA film many years ago. Is that the same? See, Ray?
Must be.
LANN, what's he talking about?
He's wondering if the land that you're describing, who gave the cameras...
Oh, no, Tom Mulan.
Oh, Mulan.
M-O-U-L-I-N.
Mulan, M-U-L-A-N. Okay, we'll go to the next photo.
All right, so this is a shot I took with a really early digital camera, and I just couldn't believe my eyes. Here's these, these are far 40s, and they're, under full spinnaker, and they're, you could have reached out and touched them from the race deck. But I was just going, wow, this is fantastic. The athleticism of it and the sheer beauty of it. And it doesn't hurt that the race course is, 100 feet out in front of the club. So it was just one of those things. I go, man, I got to do more of this. This is really great.
Far 40s back in the day when it was a very popular boat.
There was quite a fleet here.
Yeah, here in SoCal, and Australia, of course, still has a pretty good fleet. Now, you also have a lot of famous people in these photos. You recognize the owner of the boat, Morning Glory?
Yeah, that's SAP and Hasso Plattner.
Hasso Plattner, exactly.
That's one of the club's billionaires.
Yeah.
Nice guy, too.
What are these?
This is another example of, this is a 105 regatta. This is
J105
sleigh ride right in front of us. And he's got, obviously, that's Blackhawk spinnaker, and next to that is Zuni Bear. And all of that right in front of the club. You could get a leeward mark rounding, and just what a gorgeous opportunity. And you almost fire away.
Julia, that's your clue to say this is what about the venue we always say.
Oh, iconically beautiful and reliably windy.
Fabulous.
True enough. So what starts happening here is, because it's digital. I mean, I think I took one big boat series of photographs with a 36 roll film camera. Went to 1 hour photo, got them back to realize I had 3 photos worth looking at ever again. So that's terrible. All right. So, and I'm cheap. So, but digital meant you just throw your mistakes away. Don't worry about them. And you could take the card out of the camera, stick it in your computer, and be running a slideshow on a projector to begin with, and then a big LCD screen TV shortly thereafter. for the first 4 or 5 big boat series I did that for, I literally just put my card on a computer and ran a slideshow because the laptop was so slow, you couldn't actually edit the photos in any way and still do it today. It'd be tomorrow by the time you actually got through. So I'd go through and try and delete any shots of my feet that I'd gotten. but other than that, the horizons are all tilted and the out of focus and all that. But nobody ever complained about that back then. And remember that Carlo and Danielle and Sharon and Abner would be, hunkered down trying to find that gem of a photo. And man, they put my work to shame, all of those guys. And I was just saying, the guys get there, they start drinking their beers or their rum and cokes or dark and stormies and start telling their lies, and there they are right on the big screen. Nobody complained.
Yeah, there's no substitute for having post-race photos and today now videos on a big screen in the bar or in the club.
And it's relatively easy to do now that the technology makes it's as possible as it does now. If you see photos of mine in the club now, they're probably already running off of my website.
You got a bunch of 505 photos too. I know.
Oh yeah.
I can't go take. I get a hold of myself in the men's room, and right over the urinal in the upstairs urinal is a picture, a famously good. What, Julie? You can shake your finger. Go ahead, shake your finger.
It's true.
There is Chris Ray right in front of you. Now you feel, man, oh man. See, Ray, there's Commodore Pfaff is on here. Richard Pfaff is saying hello to all. He's
awesome.
Yes.
Nice to have Commodore Pfaff on here. And Alex Kent, lots of other comments. Let's push on through these because there's so many beautiful shots. This is 20. I remember this. This is when Ernesto and Larry were still talking to each other. And this was I can't see. One was the Allianz Cup and one was the UBS
this
Trophy.
Is the Moet. This is the Moet.
The Moet Cup.
Yeah.
If memory serves, 2006. And they came out, and as you can see on the spit just to the east of the Golden Gate Yacht Club, they drew quite a crowd. And these guys are obviously trying to stay out of the flood.
Now this is 03. Alinghi won the cup in 03. And we were the challenger of record. And then Larry and Ernesto said, okay, here we go. We're going to plan some other regattas. And the first thing we'll do is a home and home. They did an exhibition here in San Francisco. Cup was in February. This is in May or June now. I can't remember. And right off the city front in Julia's iconically beautiful and reliably windy condition. That's the spit down off of Golden Gate Yacht Club, right?
Yep.
And it was just spectacular, fabulous racing. If you're going to race monohulls in the America's Cup or something, this is the place to do it.
And how? And
it was great to watch. Ed Worley saying it was great to watch the ICC boats race in San Francisco. Yeah. Daniel Forster, great shots. Have to leave for racing in the J22 Newport Yacht Club Tuesday Racing Series. That's a nice compliment from Danielle. Gordon Smith saying, I used to produce a daily newspaper for KDY. That's the Royal Danish Yacht Club in Copenhagen. Gordon's a Brit who lives in Copenhagen. For KDY's big sailing events, we took interviews and photos from the day and provided a publication for everyone to enjoy over their breakfast pre-race the next day. That's hard work. Alex Kent loved racing in the far 40s, but this is from 2003, and then we had another regatta, I guess, in 2004 in Newport, Rhode Island, which was, I guess, the UBS Trophy, and we won both of those, barely, but it was Pro-Am. The pro team sailed, Russell and so on, and the amateur teams, meaning Larry and Ernesto, also raced against each other. Fabulous stuff. What about this one? There's another famous guy on this one on the wheel.
We had back, in the beginning of the 2000s, we had a thing called the Masters Regatta, which has moved south since then. A lot less, the winds would get strong, and if the fog came in, it'd be really cold and nasty. And the old guys didn't love racing a lot in that. But this is that's Ted Turner on Tom Coates's boat Charade, along with a couple of his guys, and I think that's Pam Healy's husband, Craig.
Bending,
before-
bending over there, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But, now I'm so new to taking pictures of racing sailboats at this point. I didn't even know who these guys are, but we had Malin Burnham and John Scarborough and lots of, who's who. Ted Turner's probably the best known of those guys amongst people who don't know America's Cup sailors that well. But no, we drew a number of pretty cool guys to that thing.
Any idea what year that was?
05 maybe.
And these are all, this regatta's now moved down to San Diego Yacht Club and raced in the J105s down there. And I think you had to be over 60 to steer and 50 to crew or something like that. I think so.
Something like that.
But the event's going on. Here's a fabulous photo.
This is the Melges 24 Worlds, which was down in the Olympic Circle, which is just people think it's fair racing down there, but you get all these sayings like the right always pays unless it doesn't, and such. This is a French team, and I'm just looking at this and I'm remembering the old coach of the Stanford collegiate crew, who has since moved to Baltimore, saying that you had to become comfortable being uncomfortable. I was just looking at her, right next to the mast there. You're just going, what did you guys talk me into? Jeez.
You gotta get comfortable being uncomfortable. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's what he said. John, I can't think of his last name. Anyway, so the next slide is that same event, the Melges 24 Worlds. This is Dennis George, who was a member of ours in I've forgotten which boat this is. I know that golly, the guy's name just went out of my head too. But at any rate, this is the first picture of mine that got turned into a poster for that walkway that attaches the gyms and the facilities in the yacht club. So that was that was a fun one to have in there. One of my first carnage shots.
Nice stuff. I just want to recognize some more people. Dawn Riley's on saying, fun to see old friends. I've got a terrific Bravo Zulu for the event that Dawn just hosted, and she did the television for in Sewanaka there at Oak Cliff. And I've got a full segment. I'm going to play all 8 minutes of the video, and Dawn's hosting it. Dave Perry won, and we're giving a Bravo Zulu to Dave and to Dawn and to the whole match racing thing. And we've got some exclusive photos from Peter Taylor, from our Fozy Peter Taylor. Terrific event. So Dawn, we're going to run that in a few minutes. Gordon Smith saying it was actually a wonderful way to meet remarkable people, including a wonderful time spent with Stuart Alexander, who spent time helping me to get the stories, saying about doing those morning reports for the regatta. Yeah, this kind of stuff. It's how amazing how digital media, particularly cameras, have changed the world, and it's fabulous to see what goes on here, Chris. Now, shall I go to athleticism?
Yeah, let's keep on keeping on.
Pure athleticism. Any day on the water is a great day, you say, and then.
Ooh.
What do you think? I don't know who this woman is, but that's one way to keep the spinnaker full. I figure that stanchion, she's got to be right in the middle of her sacroiliac, right? I mean, look at that, will you?
Or something. I hope she's
that's
got a
giving
life
enough
jacket.
for the team.
I hope she's got a life jacket on. What is this, a 5.0 or a 470? Or?
This is a 470 Worlds shot. This is a fellow named Matt Alexander, who was a fine sailor. I think he was an All-American at USC way back when. I got 6 rapid-fire shots of this. It's one of the most athletic things I've ever seen anyone do. The boat's going to capsize for sure. Matt he's got the tiller in one hand, and he literally jumps overboard, manages to stand on the dagger board before the boat completely gets in the water. Meanwhile, his crew dances over his head.
Yeah, he's got to get from here down here.
He got all the way
board.
down there.
Yeah.
He stood on it, kept the boat from capsizing, and they carried on. Now, as friends of mine would say, that was not fast, but it was a lot faster than if they'd capsized. But I'm going to go on about Matt for just a second.
Please.
The 470 Worlds started in a huge flood tide. I mean, sometimes when you say of a huge flood tide in San Francisco, it might be 4 knots with a current. This was closer to 5.5, maybe 6. And in a 470, going upwind, you really had to pick your ley line carefully. Well, he's in third and he doesn't quite get the ley line right. He's coming in on port. He's got the New Zealanders who won the Australians who won the thing in front of him and one other boat. And he's trying to come in on port and he can't make it. He winds up from third to 25th in that race because all the guys coming in on starboard have a great eyeball on, where the ley line is with this huge flood. But Matt didn't judge it quite right and he couldn't make it. He shot it like 3 times before he finally got around. And in the meantime, everybody got away from him. He did not make the gold fleet in this because of that one finish. Which was really something. Here's, there's just something about an old guy like me that loves a woman and her ponytail in the water.
How about a guy? What if it's a guy with a ponytail in the water?
Well, hey
I keep this up. I could have a ponytail off my chin, Julia, anytime. Huh?
We're very open-minded about this thing in San Francisco, so all good.
Thank goodness. So what is this?
That's why I'm here.
Lasers.
This is just one of our regular regattas with lasers in it. Pardon me, Ilkas. I guess we have to say that.
Ilka.
Yeah.
The home of kiting. One of the early homes of kiting.
Now, this is Agent John Gomes, who apparently is going to pay us a visit before too much longer.
He is.
The international man of mystery who works for the State Department, and he's coming here. He's staying at the Beach Street Yacht Club, right, Julia?
He is.
Exactly. This is an early kiteboarding event, one of our Thursday night things. And it was just one of my favorite, one of my favorite pictures. You just go,
isn't his kiteboard stuff down in the garage?
Yeah.
I think it is.
Probably.
Yep.
Could very well be.
That's a great picture.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
When I have the 1-800-I-GOT junk guy come, I better be sure we don't take John's stuff.
Yeah, you better not.
He wouldn't be amused. Okay, the right place, the right time. As my dad, this is one of my dads. This must be a Michigan expression.
Probably.
A blind pig sometimes.
Even a blind pig.
Blind pig. Blind. Chris, do you remember there's a famous old kind of nightclub haunt in Ann Arbor? I think it's gone. It was a music bar, but it was a dive bar called the Blind Pig. I just saw.
Oh yeah.
Remember the Blind Pig when?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Blind pig sometimes, even a blind pig finds an acorn. Speaking of which.
Oh.
I don't know if you want to call McLaren an acorn. But
the late great John McLaren.
Yeah, exactly. This is Pendragon, 12 or 15, whatever. He and Wild Oats were very famous for keeping the same name and more numerals behind the book. This is one of my very first main sheet covers.
Main sheet being the St. Francis Yacht Club newsletter.
Yeah, exactly. This is way more under the bow than I'm comfortable with. Danielle and Sharon do this all the time. I don't know how they get away with it, but I don't want guys flipping me off in the photo,
What are you in a chase boat? You're in a rig?
I'm trying to stay out of their way, so.
But that's not a long lens, a long way away.
Oh, of course it is, but this guy's coming fast, as you can see.
Great shot. What about this one?
Now that shot is from, you could get this shot still, but now you have to wait in line to go through the tunnel to get to Marin from that side. These guys in their infinite wisdom have closed off traffic to the Marin headlands. The only way you can get there is through that long service tunnel. That's, so it's a 45-minute.
So that's from the land over on the other side of the bridge, the north end of the bridge.
That's exactly right. The land on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge. And that's the Big Boat Series shot, obviously.
That is a long lens. That's St. Francis Yacht Club in the background. And then
lots of
St. Francis, and this is Golden Gate Yacht Club. Yeah. Down here, the jumping off place for a lot of people went to war in the Second War down here at
Fort Mason.
Fort Mason. And the
Yep.
Beach Street Yacht Club is right over here. The more exclusive club,
Oh,
Julie,
yes.
is right, just off the right side of the screen here, right?
That's the club. If you ask to join, you can't be
You're-
admitted.
you're
Forever.
Banned for life.
Exactly, banned for life if you want to know how to get in.
Yeah. Right.
And Sea Ray's the entertainment chairman, last I knew.
Ooh.
But Julia, the
Oh.
Commodore, makes those decisions. We don't have chairs. In fact, we have commissioners.
I've been laying down on the job in that case.
We haven't had an
we could put
AGM
that-
since pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
If we could put that slide back up for just a second. What I'm talking about here is you're looking at the race deck or that little walkway out in front of the grill room. How wrong can you get? Because you've got all this stuff going on right in front of you. Now, my wife has dragged me all over the world, and we've had the great fortune to visit a large number of the St. Francis reciprocal yacht clubs around the world. And I can't think of another one where the race venue is right in front of the grill room like this.
Pretty nice stuff.
Yeah.
Commodore Stoneberg.
This is the right place at the right time. I was telling you about McLaren coming fast. Can you imagine how fast this guy was going?
Yeah.
Yeah, Staff Commodore Stoneberg.
Pro Sail 40.
Yeah, and he broke the mast out of this, bought an Extreme 40 after that, and I don't know what he's doing now. I think he's got his pilot's license and is trying to learn how to fly, I guess.
This is another staff Commodore, as we call past Commodores here on the West Coast, at least south of Seattle. Staff Commodores. Jim Kiriakis.
This the heading on this photograph could easily seemed like a good idea at the time.
What is that, a J105 that's gone on the rocks?
J105 hazardous waste, who is obviously broached, spinnaker and all, right at the finish line of the Big Boat Series in the afternoon. And Jim Kiriakis, God bless him, is trying to keep them off of the rickrack. Now, of course, he's run aground here, so he's not really in danger of coming farther into the grill room than this. But my favorite part of this photo is that Jim is wearing flip-flops. Doesn't that seem like a good idea, to climb down on the rickrack in your flip-flops and try to keep a boat from coming ashore?
He's a great guy and a good
yes.
good kiter. He was one of the early kiters as well.
Yep.
Exactly.
Here's another great, Aussie 18 photo.
I just love the way they lined up for me. That's Alcatraz in the background. The 18s were, the I-18s were, what a wonderful bunch these guys were, and were always a great pleasure to have around. Absolutely nuttier group you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere. And, it's just something about an Australian that wants to jazz it up somehow. I don't know how they haven't put foils under these boats yet. Probably somebody got one in his garage already. They're crazy enough to try to do that.
Well, I'm sure the class rules prohibit that, but nonetheless, the boats are, they're sailing all over the world now too, not just here. Speaking of famous people.
Yes.
There you go. There's two famous people apparently not necessarily agreeing on what they ought to be doing now. This is John Kostecki and Paul Kayard, arguably two of our most famous sons from the St. Francis. And they're being driven by Pam Rourke Levy, who is Matt Brooks's wife. This is one of those, the Sailing Foundation has an auction every year to raise money for the foundation. And Sean Svensson, Staff Commodore Sean Svensson, was kind enough to offer his boat for one of the Wednesday night Woody's races. And these two characters were going to help you, find the front of the fleet. Well, what's interesting about this particular photo is it's illustrative of the fact there's nobody behind these guys. Literally, two of the most famous racing sailors in the world. And whether it was just because they couldn't agree or what, but the Narra guys beat them all silly, and they were, they were deep. I don't know if they were DFL, but they were close.
Yeah, Ed Worley, to answer your question, that is a Canar or a Nar, depending upon where in the world you are, and KR in the front, saying, I think I don't know what he's saying. And Kostecki does not look amused, does he? Looks like John's pretty low key. It looks like he's jawboning him about something. And Pam, you mentioned the Pam Ork-Levy and her husband, who's chairman of the New York Yacht Club Foundation, also longtime members here, and they own a famously cool boat called
Dorade.
Dorade.
1926, still winning regattas.
Yeah, and they're campaigning it around the world, and this is a great photo. I may use a few of these photos up at the Stag Cruise, see, Ray?
You are more than welcome. That's what they're for.
Speaking of kiting.
Before we go back, I don't have a great shot of Dorade. I do have a shot of her leaving for the Sydney Hobart race from Sydney Bay. But from the beach there at, I've forgotten the famous seafood restaurant where we were having lunch and we watched them leave. But the upshot of that is Dorade is really cool for winning the Hawaii race from the West Coast, 70-something years ago, and then Matt buys her and won it again.
Yes.
Matt Brooks.
Wait a minute. I thought we'd improved all these hulls and everything to such an extent an old boat would never do something like that again. Well,
I think it's also a tribute to the rating systems and how well they can rate. And they, to be fair, they probably give a little bonus to some of these older famous boats.
They won a couple big East Coast races too, which everybody's surprised.
A lot.
Yes, but and good on them. And of course, the Hawaii races. If you got a good navigator who knows the weatherman, I think you go a long way to good results.
John Lamberts Van Buren saying, watching the show on my iPhone so utterly stupid. A mistake on my part. I got to go home and watch it and replay it on a big screen. Thanks, John. These are nice high-res photos and beautiful action, obviously. Stingray, is it true that Larry Ellison's first sailing was on San Francisco Bay and that his first divorce was partly over his purchase of a used 30-footer?
You know better than I would.
Well,
about
he
that.
said so. He said so in several books. He's quoted in, or do I have that here? I don't think I have. Yeah, I do. I think he said as much in The Billionaire and the Mechanic, and I think he said it in a couple of his other biographies. I think in the book about, the 90 was it the 98 Sydney Hobart when there was such a horrific event. So yeah, he when he moved here, he said, "Well, I want to try this sailing thing." He came from Chicago, and long story short, bought a boat, and it was over on the east. It was in the East Bay, Alameda or Berkeley or someplace. And he told his then wife, he said, "Why don't we live on it? It'll save us money." I don't think that works so well. Okay, Gordon Smith. This is so interesting. I'm learning so much about San Francisco's geography, the sail sport, and wonderful images. Brilliant. Shall we move on to kiting?
Well, let's move on to whatever's next. Oh, yeah. All right. So now I'm in a protector with the local videographer, Vince Castellana. And this is the first quote unquote world championship kiteboard event that we had at the yacht club. And I think worldwide was because the St. Francis invented this sport. These guys figured out how to go upwind with a kite. And so, the next thing you know, Chip Wasson and a few of his buddies are putting up a windward mark. And next thing you know, Johnny Heineken's winning world championships going upwind with kites. And then, of course, the ad foils, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I digress. Vince and I are trying to figure out where do we get a decent picture of this? Because you have to pick a spot. These guys go so fast that you can't catch them in a protector. So you have to literally go find a place where you think you might get some action. And I say, Vince, why don't we go get on the pin end right in front of the club where we know they're going to have to turn so we won't be in their way, and have them come at us and just see what we see. Both Vince and I are going, well, until we try, we're not going to know. And so we get to this spot and it turns into the money shot. You just go, wow, look at that. We're both just so jazzed, couldn't believe it. Because these guys are. So
they've just started. They've just started on the starting line in front of the club, and you're up against the rocks almost.
Yeah, they're protector. Yeah, exactly. These guys are going so fast that they look like they're going fast in a still.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
From kiting to big boats, back to the big boat. There's Bad Pack from San Diego.
Oh yeah. Now there's only one reason I got this shot. I was lucky enough to get invited aboard with Sharon in a protector with a driver she knew really well, and she's great at getting under the bow like this. It's not for the faint of heart.
Big boat series, I assume.
Yep.
What year?
Yeah, or it might be. We had a Pac 52 event right after Big Boat a couple of years ago, so this might have been that. Either or, because they had their own class of Big Boat
before the Pac 52 fell apart.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, no, this is right. This is the Pac 52, right?
Yeah. Size matters.
There you go. Okay, so now I put this picture in here because I learned a lesson early on. I think it's a really cool spinnaker, and I'd highly recommend to anybody who has a sailboat that has a spinnaker that wants to go racing, for heaven's sake, spend a little money and make the spinnaker something special, which this certainly is. Now, this is my operation was, I have a website back then that would take an order off get somebody to come on to the site and order something, and it would just go. I didn't have review rights. So if for some reason I put something up that was out of focus or something like that, I'd get an angry email back saying, how could you blah, 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 blah. So this is the digital footprint. It's 8 by 12. That's the stock digital camera footprint. Well, as you probably will think about, most of the frames you've got around your house that have the old family pictures in them are 8 by 10. So this is what happens when you order something that's 8 by 10, which was shot 8 by 12. Oops, where'd the boat go? Well, imagine my chagrin when the guy comes back to me and says, what are you doing? So I found the site I have now gives me an opportunity to review what's being purchased and how it's cropped before it goes out. So I get 5 days to look at something to make sure that I didn't, that this didn't happen to it. Now, this is self-explanatory. Size matters. You don't know what somebody's going to like in a photograph, but more opti dads and moms love this photo than any of the pictures of little Johnny gritting his teeth with the main sheet in his mouth. Everybody seemed to love this picture. I don't know, it's just one of those things. Took it and it was very popular.
Helicopter shots.
Now, nobody who knows me knows. Everybody who knows me knows I hate heights. So going out in a helicopter with a belt buckle and a door off and hanging out the door makes absolutely no sense to me. But when I get over the shooting ground, all of that fears go out of your mind, and you start shooting scenes like this. This is the Finn Gold Cup, the Finn Worlds, down in the Olympic Circle in the mid-2000s, 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. And this guy coming in on port, they're wondering, I think he's got a bunch of guys yelling, "Don't go in there,"
I don't know who's behind Aussie, who's behind Aussie 223, but there probably is a gap, and they probably all go in there and attack.
I'm thinking that the two guys on port that are going to probably be okay are in front of this guy, but this guy looks like he's got a gap. No, that's not going to.
No, the Turk's going to go behind here. The Estonian's going to go behind him, and his bow is clear. He's not overlapped with the stern of the Estonian, so he'll probably end up.
He's going to have to go around. He's not going to get through that gap.
He's going to take some transoms, that's for sure. Well, there's a great shot.
Yeah.
Is that big boat series?
This is what why you take why you use the helicopter. If memory serves, these are FAR 40s. We had a class of them in the Big Boat Series not so many years ago, and I think these are FAR 40s. Don't quote me, but that's another thing. They're going around the leeward, the windward mark and the offset.
Yeah, it looks like FAR
there and headed back to Berkeley there. That's the circle from high above.
Hey, how close did you come to that helicopter?
Well, no kidding. Here's this. If I needed my feelings about helicopters and heights amplified, I did not see this helicopter. Luckily, we got a pilot who did, if memory serves, Danielle might have been in that helicopter. I don't know. If he's aboard, he might be able to tell us. These are the 45s, which they did theirs in 2012, right?
There were two regattas in 2012, one in August and one in late August and one in early October, and they were the preliminary, whatever we call that, the World Series.
Right. So the race decks jammed with spectators, and
yeah, that's a nice shot of St. Francis.
Yeah, and just off to the left of the photo is Larry's big. They put that big hard tent operation with a bar and all that sort of stuff in it, and that was very, very well attended, and that was a very entertaining event. But when I get this photo up on my laptop and see that there's another helicopter in it, I'm going, what? Boy, am I glad I didn't see that at the time. Jeez.
Well, now, more recently, the drones have come into the fore. What have you got here for us?
Much safer for me. I don't have to hang out a door anymore. I run into Danielle at the Big Boat Series maybe 5 years ago or thereabouts, right after I bought my first drone. And, he's given me this, the eephus look, because Danielle hates drones with a passion.
Why is that?
He doesn't, well, you don't want to fly a drone, an unmanned vehicle, anywhere near a real flying bird, otherwise known as a helicopter in this case. And some of these guys don't pay any attention to the height limits or any of that kind of stuff, and they get in the way. That's really bad news.
And Danielle likes to go up in the helicopter.
Oh, yeah, and he gets some wonderful work done up there. But, so for me, if I see a helicopter around, I immediately take the drone down to, under 100 feet. And I don't even really want to be out there with a manned airplane. So,
yeah, I mean, this is team racing. There's no helicopters at all involved in this regard. It's just team racing out in front of the club, and there's a direct overhead shot.
And this is one of the great things to do with a drone, because obviously if you put a helicopter this close overhead, that you'd be affecting their wind a lot. Yeah. With a drone, somebody might hear it making noise, but they can drown that out pretty quickly.
How much breeze, Chris? Because it's breezy out here normally. What's the upper limit to when you are not?
That's a great question. I've used only the DJI drones, which means the Chinese know everything about me. Privacy. Kim's boss from Sun Microsystems way back said, there is no privacy, get over it. Yeah. So I had a Phantom 4 Plus, which used to do really well, even in 20 knots of breeze. It would hover in place. It's all GPS located and all that. And you take your hands off the controls and it just parks itself right where you left it. And so that's terrific. Now, I've got a great friend who has the next drone down from DJI, a thing called a Mavic. And he and I are flying together one day right out in front of the club trying to take pictures of the kites. And it's gusting into the 20s, and my drone's fine. And his drone took off toward the Golden Gate Yacht Club. I've never seen a guy vault the wall that is our eastern border at the yacht club. He literally ran the length of the sidewalk in front of the club and vaulted it to chase his drone, which he managed to get down in the parking lot.
What's a good drone cost? I'm not talking about military spec.
No, of course not. The DJI Phantom 4 Plus, I bought a wrapped together package for $2,500, I think, and that came with a Pelican case that is basically bulletproof and extra batteries and all this extra folderol, which was great. I think you could buy one stripped down for a little under $2,000. And these take photos in 4K. So the computer I've got can't eat the video from these in one piece. I have to massage it a little bit because that's so dense that the processor pukes.
Well, you'd better get a new computer. I mean, Julia's about to get a new computer, and hers is only a couple, 3 years old. She's looking at her hair now, worried about her hair in the
I know.
shot. Your hair looks fine, Julia.
I'm a little old for these, new stuff all the time, right? I'm getting kind of set in my way.
Look at seriously.
It's easier.
For next to no money. I mean, for 600, you can buy a Mac Mini, the new M1 Mac Mini, for I think $600 now, something like that. And it's got the M1 chip in it, and it will handle 4K video, no problem, and quickly. It'll.
There you go.
We got a Mac Studio for $2,000 here, sitting here in the back of this studio, and you can't really see it. It's the boxy thing. You can sort of see it through there. That's a $2,000. In fact, you can get it for $1,800 now. That's a $2,000 computer, and that thing will handle more than 4K and quickly. It's astonishing. I mean, we're putting 18 sources into this thing, and streaming 1080p 30, and I can stream 1080 60 if we had 1080 60 cameras. But I digress. Let's go to Carnage. Exactly.
Oh,
this is the first one of these. This is Big Boat Series. It's going to be 2004 or thereabouts. It's an Express 37 with a called Bullet, and I'm in a judge's boat. They let the judges go out on the race course. God knows why they can't make any calls out there. And they said, "Oh, wow, look at that!" I'm looking at the Windward Mark, and these guys said, "Well, look up the race course some, and you see Bullet's you can see the strut that's over so far." You just go, "Uh-oh, hope everybody stayed in the boat."
mm-hmm.
Great shot.
This is a great example of the grill room curse.
Yes.
You see the windows you see right behind there are the grill room, and guys
the downstairs kind of main bar at St. Francis.
Yeah.
Why people would want to do anything at all risky near there, knowing that the curse exists, is here. You saw Jim Kiriakis keeping the bow of Hazardous Waste off the rocks. Well, that's the same place these guys are. I got a guy, back to that shot we were just on, I got a guy who called me he makes non-skid paint that he wants to sell to boat owners and to people who have wet applications for non-skid stuff. He wanted to use this photo to, amplify the idea that non-skid surfaces were a good thing to have.
Right.
I love the bow. Yeah. The bow person is going, "What are you guys all excited about?" And the other thing is, I love the one guy who's wearing a black top there, standing in the companionway. Now, this guy goes, "What's everybody so excited about?" I'm fine, exactly. The guy just below him, you figure, is waist deep, in the water at this point.
It looks like this gal's having fun. It looks like they're all having fun. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
It's happened to all of us a lot of times.
Tom, maybe you can help me. You know boats way better than I do. If we go back to that one more time, I'm trying to find the tiller in this shot. Way off in the low left-hand corner, if it's one of those cuff hand extension type tillers, it might be there. I can't figure out who's.
Here's the tiller extension.
It looks like it's going the wrong way. Unless he broke it off or something.
No, they haven't reacted. It doesn't matter. The rudder's way out of the water, but here's the tiller, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
The tiller extension down in the water.
Oh boy, they're going. Oh man. Now the next picture to that is the same idea. This, you can see the tiller really. This is a boat called Inspired Environments, which I think is a Beneteau. He's got one of those IOR boats, infrared, on the outside of him, and they're right at the finish line of the Big Boat Series, and right in front of the grill room, naturally. And this guy, he rolls the boat over like this. He's got a death grip on the wheel, and when the boat starts to right and the rudder gets back in the water, he got thrown out of the boat because he's the tiller so tight. So the next shot after this is there's a protector picking them out of the water.
As Ed Worley says, who claims that sailing monohulls are boring to watch? Well, they're not.
There you go. Right in front of the
Maverick,
grill room.
we're in a flat spin. Eject.
Exactly.
What part?
Exactly. This is just right place and right
Go ahead,
time. Just
Julia.
go and look at that.
I'll back
Wow.
up. You were saying,
Yeah,
Julia.
part of the drama of doing that there is that you can see everything coming straight toward the club, and that there's a famous turnaround there, which even famous and perfect sailors say.
Well, it is. It's iconic. As Stingray says, it's
Yeah.
iconically windy. And
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this, and the lens foreshortens it, but it looks to me like the IOR boat. What's the name of that boat? Infrared.
Infrared.
Is on starboard tack. Obviously, has right away. It looks like these guys are coming downhill in inspired. What is it? Inspired
Environments.
environments, and their port tack. And it looks to me like they were trying to round up and go astern of the starboard tackers because they're the giveaway boat. That is the white boat's the giveaway boat, and that may be why they ended up.
I think they're making too much of it because I think they're just both trying to get inside the A buoy, which is well above infrared here.
Yeah.
He just overdid it a little bit, or got hit by a puff when the boat, got away from him.
Okay.
The volume of cheers or boos in the yacht club goes up and down with these kinds of things, and so everybody's so afraid of
Exactly
them.
so. Exactly so.
Who's this?
I don't know that guy. He looks an awful lot like a friend of mine, Michael Gallagher, but I don't think Michael Gallagher was kiting at that juncture. So it's not. I don't think that's who it is. I don't know who this guy is.
Who's that?
So speaking of the air going out of the room, as Julia just mentioned, we're at the big sail, which is the annual, sailing face-off before big game between Cal and Stanford, the big rivalry here in the Bay Area.
In October.
And we're at a wonderful event that the Yacht Club hosts every year that gets, sailing fans and non-sailing fans alike out to root for the Bears or the Cardinal. And so I'm paying attention to that, and that's wrapping up. And all of a sudden, you can hear all of the air go out of the building. So I look out the window, what could have happened? And what's happened is Oracle 17 has capsized. And I got a picture which I sent to Tom Eamon, and he told me he had a worldwide exclusive of this thing, which, I guess is something that Danielle and Sharon would think was important. I think it's great, but I had no idea what that was.
You sent it to me, and
Right.
I'm trying to remember. I think Coots and I were in New York I don't remember what we were doing. I think we were fighting legal battles or something. I don't really remember. But nonetheless, I got this saying that, oh my God, they've capsized. And it was a world exclusive because nobody else had a decent photo. There was somebody over in the Marin Headlands that had a kind of a half-baked video. And they sent that to me as well, and I got some screen grabs. But yours was the first and best, and I posted it on Facebook. And the team, don't show that to anybody. What do you mean? I said, excuse me, it's going to be all over the place. The whole world's going to have this.
Yeah,
Might as well
that
put it
wing
up.
is already falling apart, as you can see.
And I tell you what, Coots has been really good about that. He has a natural instinct for taking, this is going to, he knows it's, I don't want to say it puts butts in seats, but he knows that this is part of the sport. You're going to have disasters, and you're going to have,
worldwide
interest, attention. And you're going to, Dennis understood this too, and you're going to have media. It was an historic moment, as David James is saying. Lynn Coffey is saying, what a wonderful body of work. Chris, quickly, because we're an hour and almost 40 minutes into the show, the recipe, ingredients, one, you said, for what you're doing and the contribution you're making, essentially as a volunteer to the club and to our sport. Tell us about it.
Well, the advent of digital photography made this easy, and it was a fairly natural progression for me. You get the ingredients include, you need to have a willing shooter or two, or a small group of folks who are willing to go out and spend their weekend or Saturday or what have you out on the water, what have you, to get the pics. Then, a laptop or some such thing can, and a high def flat screen like everybody's got in every bar across the sports bar world. And pretty soon, the guys coming in off the water, guys and gals coming off the water, they've got pictures of themselves, and who hates that? I go back to, I sure hope Chris Ray's not around, but everybody else loves that shot of you in extremis. So there's that bit. And so, and then social media and the web presences make that just so much more easy. And, everybody can appreciate the athleticism and the weather aspect and just how beautiful these creatures are from a photogenic standpoint. So for print magazines or for websites, that's, it's great stuff to work with. You get, it gets pretty easy to do pretty quickly.
And what's important to do within the club?
Well, I think Julia will be able to correct me on this, but some years right after I started doing this, we were renegotiating the club's lease with the city, and part of that was to convince the city fathers and mothers that that there was a value to the yachting community, and we started putting together some preliminary numbers on it. We're talking about 75 to 8,000 volunteer hours a summer by various and sundry folks donating, giving of their time to put together these programs that include youth sailing activities, et cetera, getting kids out on the water regardless of who they are or where they're from, et cetera. So the volunteerism aspect is you just can't put too fine a point on that. That's just so important.
And Julia, that helped sell the city when you were helping to promote the
absolutely
the lease.
The other piece of this is the race committee. You don't have to be a member of St. Francis to volunteer time on the race committee, and a great, getting on the water is a great thing to do for a day. We'll provide everything, including lunch, and I think there are those of us who know that there's no such thing as free lunch. This is a great way to meet people, get involved, get outdoors. Any day on the water is a great day. And so from that standpoint, volunteering for race committee is, a great waste of a perfectly good day.
It is indeed. Oh, see, Ray, that brings us back to the cover of your book that you're putting together for raising money for the yacht club. My favorite racing picks: 20 years of St. Francis Yacht Club. Regatta photos by Chris Ray, and I'm pleased to see what you chose as your cover photo there on the right, and then the rear photo on the left. All profits are going to the St. Francis Sailing Foundation, so you can scan that QR code whether you're watching live or in, and maybe put that in after the show. Maybe put that in the comments too, Chris.
That will take you to the site, the blurb site where this book is available. It's we got our heads together and decided on $199 seemed like a good number for the purpose, St. Francis Sailing Foundation. So that's where it is. But you could also preview the entire book there if you wanted to see whether your picture's actually in it. And of course yours is, Tom. You pointed that out.
Okay, well I have to get a book.
A lot of the folks on this broadcast may very well have, snuck into a picture or two in this group, because I tried to cover the waterfront, if you will, with, the various classes of boats that we have at the St. Francis, everything from little ones, the Optis, right up through the Pac 52s and bigger.
But see, Ray, you've done way more than just yachting. You've done a bunch of others, and that's also available where?
This is my website, Sea Ray IVP. The next slide has a QR code for that, should somebody be interested in going to this page, and underneath each one of these thumbnails is a series of galleries that bear on the topic. The Blue Angels, for instance, that's many years of shooting the various shooting the Blue Angels and friends from the air shows of Fleet Week. That's and there's another book there that are. I have 18 years worth of the Wednesday night Woody's races, NARS and others, as a book. Also, along with there are a number of other things that were of interest to me that I put together in my trip.
Chris, I mean, these are fabulous. I've seen any number of them. As I said, you've done some things for us here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, but I've got to ask you about this one. Butterflies of London. Is that?
Oh,
from,
yeah.
Is that from frequenters of nightclubs, or is that really
not social butterflies?
Is that social butterfly? What?
No.
What are the butterflies of London? What the hell's that?
It gets really cold in London. Those of us from Michigan remember what cold weather used to be like. And when it's cold, the Natural History Museum and the zoo and one other or two other locations around London put together butterfly houses, which you can buy the public can buy a ticket to. You can take your camera in there and fire away, which is what I did. And that's, if I do say so myself, a lovely little book, subject butterflies, and they're magical creatures. And I had a woman who was
Julia, I got to put her on. She's shaking her head and
yeah.
smiling. She loves butterflies.
Well, let's just a woman who's not a favorite of mine paid me, a really wonderful compliment once, saying that she had a problem with her daughter and her daughter's screaming infant child. When handed the butterfly book, the screaming tyke instantly piped down, because one of the reasons they scream is they're bored or need some attention or some such thing. And the bright colors and the patterns and stuff just captivate the young mind. And so the kid just immediately went quiet and would
How nice.
Look through the pages. What a wonderful compliment. I don't know, maybe she's buttering me up. But.
Stingray also likes birds of South Africa. We've seen that one, but see, Ray, I'm going to leave it there because we've got really 15 minutes left in the show, and I got a couple other things to cover. But I can tell you one other thing. I told Julia about this the other night when I got home, but there's one other thing that this book I might carry one around with me, because flying back from Detroit Saturday night late, these kids, and the parents, some parents are stupid. They don't realize that kids can't clear their ears, and you go up through the altitude, and we all know how to clear our ears, and we try to. And if the kid's got a little sinus infection or something, you got to give a kid a pacifier to suck on. And this poor kid, when we took off, was screaming, and I almost went back there and said, "Stick your fingers in the kid's mouth and let the kid, do something. You got to, because the kid can't balance the pressure in her head and her ears." And then when we came in on final, same thing happened. Not even on final. The last half an hour, 45 minutes, the poor kid was screaming like crazy, and we're all clearing our ears and we're saying, surprisingly enough, butterflies. Gordon Smith is saying, boy, you learn something from the Fozy every day.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly enough, butterflies can fly at 37 miles per hour. I had no idea, Gordon Smith. Ted Ryman, who lives in South Africa, who's in Cape Town, did Chris take those African photos on the wall behind him?
Yes.
You've done several trips to Africa, haven't you?
I've been to various and sundry parts of Africa. I've been on the African continent 15 times. Love everything, but love the animal part of Africa deeply.
Julia Ahrens, who lives in Cleveland, says the botanical gardens there have an unbelievable butterfly garden. I wish I was good enough with a camera to take some shots. We have to make a trip to Cleveland, see Ray, Julia, and go to the Manor Harbor Yacht Club in Rocky River.
The Mistake on the Lake.
And the city's had its ups and downs, but it's got three really good clubs. Edgewater Yacht Club downtown, and I'm particularly fond of Edgewater because I won a North American Championship there one time.
Yes.
So enough for all that. Here's your CR, your QR code rather, C-Ray QR, crayivp.com, and there's the QR code to get you to Chris's. And we hope some people, especially St. Francis, Members will buy the book. It's for a good cause. It's to raise money, as we said, for the St. Francis Sailing Foundation. And besides, the photos are fabulous. Chris, thank you very
Yes,
much. Yeah.
absolutely.
It's been a great pleasure chatting with you all. I hope you'll let me stay on and add the
Of course.
occasional scurrilous comment to
Please.
the remainder of the show.
Please do. Pithy comments. Chris
Yes.
Dewar is saying
Yeah.
Mentor Harbor Yacht Club. Yeah, on the east side of Rocky River. What is it called? The Cleveland Yachting Club at Rocky River on the west side,
The
downtown.
river hasn't caught fire in almost 40 years, right?
I was there racing in 1969 when it caught fire.
Aye,
That
aye,
was
aye.
69, 68. Yeah, I was there. I
Damn the
think,
torpedoes, straight full.
well,
full
we were out
speed
in the
ahead.
lake, and that was the Cuyahoga River, and so did the Houston Shipping Canal, Ship Channel, whatever that was called. But thanks, Evie. Yeah, do stay with us as we move forward here now. Thank you.
Yes,
If
it was
you're
great.
just joining us, that's Chris Ray, who is live via Skype from the other side of San Francisco. He's a fellow St. Francis Yacht Club member with Julie and myself, and a dear friend, and obviously a superb, mostly amateur photographer. He gets paid a few bucks from people who want to get a copy of one of his photos he takes during the regattas.
I still like the transition from the guy in the yacht club teaching him how to take pictures, and it blossomed and bloomed. And
I like it even because he started singing before he even got right. Chris, you're singing at the yacht club, and that's how you got involved. I mean, that's why. I mean, let's face it. That's why all these other ancillary activities. Some
Yeah.
people, this is a yacht club. We shouldn't have a bar. We shouldn't have a swimming pool. We shouldn't have the Sons of the Sea. Au contraire. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a video in a minute from Peter Stevenson down at the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron, apropos things that attract people to the club and get them to go eat and drink and
yeah,
so on. So let's go. I don't know that I'm going to have time to play this whole video, but the Bravo Zulu here, to, as I said, Don Riley and Dave Perry and a lot of other. There's Fozy that were sailing in this regatta. This is the World Match Racing Tour regatta at Oak Cliff that took place. Dave Perry, there is Dave, and Nicole Briot from this club. And Dave won the regatta ultimately. This is over the past weekend. It's one of the, I think they call it the North American. It's Chicago, Detroit, Oak Cliff, and there may be one more coming up. I can't remember now, but it was a fabulous regatta. These photos coming up now are courtesy of our Fozy Peter Taylor, who's also a member of the Beach Street Yacht Club now.
he is.
And he was there. He's often there helping on race committee and sailing, and also in this case taking photos. And Chris putting up these photos, and Peter, like you, I think is a superb photographer, but basically an amateur. Don, thank you. Don Riley's on saying it's the Grand Slam. Yeah. Are there 4 events, Don? Did I say that right? Chicago, Detroit, Oak Cliff, and what's the 4th one? It's the Match Racing Grand Slam, if I remember well. And nice photos from Peter Taylor. Nice to have Dawn on here. I'm going to get Dawn back on the show. A lot of things to talk with Dawn about, but she is doing a superb job, as usual, at Oak Cliff. And these nice photos. Yep, Thompson Cup, Sewanaka, thank you, is the 4th one. So right across the bay from Oak Cliff. And I think that's coming up this coming week or weekend from memory. And that's one of our Fozy, Julia, there from the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. They're on the right. Talk about him in a minute, and a colleague.
Mm-hmm.
Richard Morse is on. The great Dawn Riley is in the house. Yes, she is. And a fellow Michigander. You knew that, Chris, right? That Dawn Riley is from St. Clair Shores.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you're from Grosse Pointe. She went to Michigan State. You went to Trinity.
I went to Trinity.
Trinity College to go play hockey, right?
Correct. I would never have made the Michigan team.
But Dawn is in the house, and she is, as usual, doing a fabulous job at Oak Cliff. And here's another team from Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron. And the RNZ made a nice post, Dawn. I don't know if you've seen this on their Facebook page, probably because you're feeding them stuff. The RNZYS teams have continued to impress and improve at the World Match Racing Tour Oak Cliff, with both crews qualifying for the finals, racing over this past weekend in Long Island. Megan Thompson and her 2.0 women's racing team were knocked out in the semifinals after taking a 1-race lead over veteran Dave Perry. another Fozy, and Dave went on to win the regatta. While Robbie McCutcheon, whose pictures we showed there, and Robbie sailed in the Gov Cup this year, is just a hell of a nice kid, a great kid, good sailor. GCH Racing is the name of his team, fell to a familiar foe during their American campaign in Chris Poole, who's another superb match racer, in the quarterfinals there at the WMRT Oak Cliff. Both crews have improved immensely over their U.S. Grand Slam. There it is, Don. Grand Slam campaign, and with one more regatta this weekend for the Thompson Cup on the other side of Oyster Bay. Johnny Thompson, the late great Johnny Thompson, what a great contributor to the sport he was. And so over at Sewanee Corinthian Yacht Club, sailed out of the SCYC, the teams will be looking to end their travels on high. It's been going on for more than a month. So nice stuff there, and thanks also to Peter Taylor. And here is I'm going to play it. We're an hour and 55 in, but this is such a good video with Dawn narrating. It's about 8 minutes long. I'm going to play it.
Welcome to the fourth and final day of the Oak Cliff International. We are currently hovering over Billy Joel Shoal, waiting for some wind. After an epic day of racing, all we have left are the finals and the Pettit finals. Currently, we have Dave Perry in first, Peter Holes in second, Chris Poole in third, Megan Thompson in fourth. If no racing gets off, that's the way the standings will stay. That's the way the prize grants will be attributed. First place is $2,500. We're currently on board with Team Dave Perry and his team of skippers, headed out to the race course. There's a northerly. Who knew?
Welcome along Sound in August.
Absolutely. So I want to talk just a little bit about yesterday. Okay. You had some really interesting situations. There was a little bit of a collision that was in the video last night. You can see on YouTube. But talk about this pre-start with Megan Thompson, because I appreciate the fact that you avoided collision quite a few times.
Well, first of all, can I say there's a lot of young teams here, and I think that is the best thing for the sport. There's a lot of teams here where the kids haven't used a wheel before, and the boat really handles different with a wheel. So we've lost, I think, 4 races so far, and they've all been to the young teams, which is great. But sometimes when you're younger and a little less experienced boat like that, you do something which you can get away with in a smaller boat and doesn't work so well in a big boat. So I chalk it up to that. And I'm experienced enough. I saw trouble coming and I knew how to jump out of the way.
It came through loud and clear on the Facebook Live. We absolutely saw that happening, so we appreciate it. Any comments on your race against any of the other races yesterday? Because you had some pretty dicey situations. I saw a little bit of a pullback, and then you came on strong.
Well, the pullbacks, listen, as you know, it's an ebb and flow, right? No one's going to win every race. And we had a great race with Tapper, the young Tapper team, in the end of the round robin. That was when we had the collision, and it couldn't have been closer, and they won that. And then we won the round robin. He was 8th, and we met in the quarterfinals, and he won the first race there too. And we had lead changes. I would say that our crew work is strong, and that bailed us out of a lot of situations. But their match racing tactics are strong, and so, full credit to them, and, it's great to see it.
I can see the experience on the race course. I think everybody can see who's watching. Just a little bit of a comment. There are 3 Americans, 3 kind of hometown teams in the finals. How did that happen?
It's a long time in coming, Don, and you especially, and many others, we've been working so hard to raise the level of American match racers. There was a time when it was tough to see the stars and bars up there at all. And now it's a more regular basis, and I couldn't be more proud. It's a result of a lot of work that you've done, I've done, and other people have done. And credit to younger sailors coming along. And we got Daniel Pegg on board. He's a youth world champion, and we got Nicole Brault on board. She's #1 woman match racer in the country and 3 in the world. So the U.S. is I think we're back on the world stage again, which is a great place to have us.
Absolutely, no pressure. As the past president of Oak Cliff, we want him to win, and you get $2,500 in prize grants, and you get Hobie sunglasses. Woo!
Wow, well that's exciting. That'll pay for the dinner I took him out to Walls Wharf last night, and so that'll cover that, which would be great.
Awesome. Have a great day today.
Thanks a lot.
As we're waiting for wind, the 68-meter built in 2019, the Nika has arrived in Oyster Bay. Evidently, she was built in 2019 and is not for sale.
Okay, so I'm going to skip ahead to the end of the video when Dave Perry owes a penalty, and they're coming into the finish line, and he just at the last minute manages to get a penalty on the other boat and win the regatta. And Dawn calls it beautifully. Have a look.
We are entering it's going to be conversation, and it's a yellow and a blue. Both boats were wrong. No, it's a yellow. Dave Perry wins. Dave Perry, that was an interesting mark rounded.
Oh my gosh, whenever you're seeing Peter Holtz, you never know what's going to happen next.
What?
Never.
Agreed. Holy crap, you do not see that every day. That was very, very, very fun match racing. And if you didn't pick up, at the end of the day, they're all friends because this game is played over and over and over again. And it's just plain awesome.
I hate being wet.
Okay, so Bravo Zulu to Dave and his team, including Nicole and Daniel Pega, we know from down at Balboa Yacht Club, and the Dawn Riley, and it just fantastic, very, very well done, nicely done. Gordon Smith is saying having a coherent series of racing events makes it so much easier for crews to take part. U.S. Sailing might want to consider why the European Tour attracts so many foreign crews and racing and training for Olympic events. Match racing is no different, as this series seems to show. So, yeah, bravo Zulu to them, to Dave, and especially to Dawn Riley and everybody at Seacliff, Julia.
Everything she's done has just been terrific.
Well, she's from Michigan. She's a Michigander.
oh, yes.
Right, C. Ray? Huh? Where's your Michigan hat? I didn't even bring mine here into the studio. Oh, you got your hockey hat on, your hockey old timers. I don't think he likes the hat I brought him, Julia.
I love the hat you brought me. I can't wait to shame a friend of mine who usually is always in front of me on these things. Like he will be deeply envious of this one.
Yeah,
he told me not to do this, but
what somebody said to me is that, how did the people in the Upper Peninsula feel? Maybe they should just hold that over there maybe the people in the Upper Peninsula should just go over and join Minnesota or Canada or something.
That's Wisconsin, but that's neither.
Well, Wisconsin, I mean, everybody's close up there. Okay.
On Wisconsin, yeah.
On Wisconsin, we've had Chris Ray with us. This is show number 548. We're 2 hours and 2 minutes in. And we've got a couple other things to show you that we're getting so many contributions, Julia, now from FOSI video and otherwise. Really nice. I didn't even have time to put Alistair's awesome Aussie anecdote together. Oh. But we do have a new segment apropos the America's Cup. But before we do that, I want to play this trailer for a new America's Cup Netflix show that's coming out on September 6th. Have a look.
The New York Yacht Club were ferocious defenders of the America's Cup. They oozed style, wealth, this unbeatableness.
The US had never lost. It was the longest winning streak in sporting history for 132 years. There's no question the emerging force was Dennis Conner. He was the best sailor in the world.
He will do anything to win.
We slaughtered him.
3, 2, 1.
It was time that we had to do something radical. It's a huge commitment. We had to believe ourselves that we belong on the world stage. I hadn't been a navigator on any boat.
But we were there for one reason, to win.
All the work that we had done had paid huge dividends. And we came out all guns blazing. What Australians really like is upsetting the upper echelon.
The whole of the world was watching this.
The greatest yacht race of the century.
Never seen anything like this.
And a little country called Australia had the audacity to think that we could do it.
Yes, indeed.
So, yeah, that's coming up on, I think, the 6th of September, isn't it? Have you seen promos for it, Julia, otherwise? And it looks like it's going to be pretty interesting. Now, some of that stuff was taken out of context. You had shots from with President Reagan, which was after Dennis won the Cup and brought it back in '87. But nonetheless, it looks like they've really put together a nice piece, at least from the trailer.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
And I am too. And here's our new segment. Thank you to another America's Cup veteran. He was with Newport Harbor's team, Eagle, in the 87 Cup. This is our Fosey Ed Worley, who contributed a new segment where that's America's Cup. He calls it the Fosey Challenge. It's really a trivia question. And if I don't know the answer, then I figure it's a pretty good question. Hamish Ross might know the answer, but which America's Cup yacht, and Chris Ray will come to you, which America's Cup yacht was named after a province in Russia? See, Ray, without Googling, in fact, even if you Google it, this is pretty obscure. You might not.
That's pretty, that's a good one. You got me.
Julia, any idea?
I don't.
I didn't either.
Kamchatka doesn't sound right.
No, it was not Putin. Yeah, Tom
Galatea.
Fishback, you're not being polite. He's saying that the Eagle Syndicate was named Beagle. Stingray saying, was it Galatea? No. Sirius, Mary Longprees? No. Here's a clue. Anybody know what boat that is? I'll give you another clue. It was 1871.
Oh.
Now people
Crimea?
Crimea, no.
Crimea River?
Crimea River. Any other guesses before I give you the answer? On the Ed Worley Fosey Challenge, the America's Cup. No other guesses? Mary Longprees got Sirius as their last guess. Going once. People are Googling like crazy. I can hear I can hear David James from across the bay is Googling like crazy to see who was in the 1871 match. Well, here's the answer. You stumped him, Ed Worley, Livonia. Now, there's also, as you know, C. Ray, and as Clark Chapin will know, as Dawn will know, there's a Livonia, Michigan, which I guess is a Russian name, but it was the second unsuccessful challenge. It was the 1870 first challenge. And then in 1871, Livonia came and attempting to lift the America's Cup from from New York in 1871.
Livonia.
Yeah. I did not. Yeah, Stingray's got it. Livonia. HMS Wannabeers. Jody Shields down in Wanji, north of Sydney. So this was this controversial character. This was a the first match in 1870, the New York Yacht Club put their fleet out, just like the squadron the Royal Yacht Squadron put their fleet out when America came over, raced around the Isle of Wight. What's good for the goose is good for the proverbial gander. So that wasn't very popular. So New York said, well, we will only put out one boat at a time in the 1871. So this guy Ashbury came back and only put out one boat at a time. Well, he didn't have very good lawyers, or he didn't really realize what was going on, because New York could substitute boats depending upon the weather conditions. And they didn't have to use the same boat for all three races. So that didn't go very well. Having unsuccessfully challenged, I think there's a typo here where they said 1868 with Cumbria. James Lloyd Ashbury again commissioned Michael Ratsey of Cowes to build a new yacht. Livonia was based on the lines of Sappho and was launched on the 6th of April, 1871, sailed over to Newport, to New York, actually. Ashbury took his new yacht across the Atlantic to once again challenge for the America's Cup, this time on behalf of the Royal Harwich Yacht Club. In the 1871 America's Cup race was involved in controversy, as the Brits would say. There was disagreement over the format of the competition, with Ashbury seeking legal advice. I'll skip through this. Long story short, after they switched yachts, they started with Columbia and ended up racing Sappho was chosen to replace Columbia to continue the challenge, and subsequently won the next two races and thus defended the Cup for New York. And there's more to the story, but he sat there and he said, well, you haven't won. I think it was first to 3 or 4. I can't remember. You haven't won. No one yacht has won 3 races. Therefore, and I'm going to say here and go out and race more races. Well, New York went home, took their toys home. The rules are clear. And the poor guy, that poor guy, Ashbury, he needed a TFE on his legal side. Yeah, well, rather not have any lawyers. But we shall see. That was, thank you very much, Ed, for that. And we will have hopefully some more from Ed. That was a pretty good question, I thought. I had no idea Livonia was a Russian name. Did you, Chris? And Julia?
No.
5 Mile and Telegraph, right?
Well, Livonia's a popular kind of near west suburb of Detroit. A lot of our club members came out from Livonia. It's right next door to where Clark Chapin lives in Plymouth. Okay, we digress on Michigan. Now I got another one, another Fozy submission. This, he called it, he gave it the name. This is Pedro's personal perspective. Have a look.
Morning, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozies. You may ask, where's Pedro today? And
look at all
what
the
sort
boats.
Of boats are these? And where are they? Well, they're lasers and little boxes. What sort of boat's this? It's an Opti. I knew it was called an Opti. See, they know what it is. And oh, look at that. We've come down by the harbour. Off goes the 4.7.
This is the middle of their winter.
What backyard sailing
In
club is
Sydney.
this? Well, it's no backyard sailing club. It's young people rigging up boats, getting ready to go out in the water. It's the Squatty, of course.
I was going to say, yeah.
And they're having today a car and boat show. No, they're not celebrating an American Revolution or the fishing and pillaging of whales. It's a boat show and car show.
I wonder if we could get them to fire that cannon. I wonder if it's still working. We could use that in our intro. I'm getting tired of that Royal New Zealand intro, but it's pretty good. But he goes on, wait, there's more.
I just thought I'd take you for a little tour of their car and boat show. So this old grand girl is called Fidelis, probably known to quite a lot of you. And I'll just walk past that. And up ahead is Caprice of Huon, but I'll just take a little shot back. And there she is.
Gorgeous.
Indeed.
At the moment it looks like there's been a sale on flags at Kmart. Walking up here we have Caprice of Huon, another old grand lady being admired by all. I'll walk my way through the crowd, and what I'm approaching now is another fine old girl. No, not the girls on the dock. This lovely old lady is called Pearl, and I believe the guy sitting there holding audience with these lovely ladies. What's your name, sir? This is John, proud owner of Pearl. Oh. Do you know John?
It must be a mate of Peter Stevenson's, of Pedro Foiling Sailors. The lady does not look amused. Now for the car part of this.
Tom, Julia, and all the Fozies.
Oh, look at those.
Just to give you a bit of a quick walk around, here's a few more of these classics. Morgans are breeding. Oh, check that out. Sean Langman's Valiant. Someone with a little mini. There's the classic Cobra. And what do we find here? Lockie in a World War II Jeep. Are we all having fun, Lockie? What? Very good.
Excellent.
Excellent, isn't it? That's Peter Stevenson, a.k.a. Pedro Foiling Sailor. We're calling that Peter's personal he's calling it Peter's personal perspective. Thanks, Peter Stevenson, for that. Very, very much appreciated in this show. Okay, I don't have anything special for Corrector Crutonic. There's only one thing, and I'm not going to ask you to make a judgment because this thing is starting to itch so badly that it's coming off, if not yet this afternoon, but it's come off tomorrow. But Chris, you think it should come off? You gave me, coming off, and I'll be clean, Julia, I promise.
Promise?
Corrector Crutonic, though. Some people said it was okay. Julie Aarons liked it.
Oh, Julie.
I'm getting rid of it, so we don't have to dwell on that. Okay, that gets us to the D block, our final block. And Julia, a couple of these are, in fact, we only have two. Yeah, that was a lovely tour of the show. And apropos that, while this, in fact, I'm going to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Before I go to that, I just want to say, Chris and Julia, I think yacht clubs need to do more of that kind of stuff. This is the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron,
Right.
obviously, the Squaddies, you call it. And is there ever been a car show in the forecourt at the yacht club?
Yes.
Yeah.
What kind of show?
It's
Julia, swing around a bit so we can get
Commodore
you in
brought a bunch
Thank
of
you.
Ferraris at one point.
Yeah.
Forgot his name's just gone out of my head. Sorry about that. So there were a bunch of Ferraris. Then from time to time on Father's Day, folks with special cars are encouraged to bring them, although that's not a formal thing. But you get some pretty cool cars.
Yes.
Okay,
Nothing
it's got to be a good thing, though, right? I mean, there can't be anything wrong with bringing that and get people to come down to the club, have a drink, have some dinner. Let's go see the cars. Let's go see the boats. Meanwhile, all those kids are launching their lasers and their optics. What a fabulous club. I've stayed there. You've stayed there, right, Julia?
Where?
At the Royal Sydney Yacht Squadron?
I've not stayed there. I stayed across the street with somebody else.
Oh, I won't ask. C. Ray.
We had lunch there. I didn't.
Yeah.
No, they have bedrooms. They have bedrooms upstairs, and for a while, I stayed there a number of times. For a while, the problem was that the internet was not correct, and you had to use your hotspot. All that hair. Somebody asked me I think it makes you look older, but a man without a mustache is like a soup. What? Without salt. All that hair makes me wonder if during the trip to Michigan, Tommy caught a touch of monkeypox. Jesus, that's terrible.
Yes, it is.
No, it's just, I hate shaving. It's Lee. I've been shaving since I was 14 years old, and sometimes, often twice a day. Forget about it. I'm done.
Virile self.
No, it's not. It's awful. Thank you, Joe Holtzman. He thinks it looks good. I think it's itchy. Okay, so Julie, get your finger ready.
All right.
This was a submission. I won't tell you by whom, but it's water. Chris, this reminded us, I showed it to you in the tech check, Caddyshack, right? Same idea as the Caddyshack.
The pool will be closed for 5 minutes. Exit the pool. Everyone out. I have a small bathroom break I have to do. Pool open in 5 minutes. Thank you.
You get your finger ready.
That was just so bad.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the pool is now open.
Now, that came from an unlikely source. That is from Monica Diaz, our Fozy in Spain, and she sent that. And Gordon Smith says it's genius. Martha Peterson's on here. She sends some of the great jokes around, as you know.
Does.
C. Ray and Gordon Smith's laughing. So I guess that was a hit.
Yes.
Okay, and we got one more, Julia. This one from Ted Ryman, who invariably sends us a good one.
Yeah.
If you were stuck on a deserted island, how would you signal?
Lots of
what?
Flags. Flagging downs. Yeah.
Okay, Ted Ryman, who sent a note saying this was really nice. Enjoy your time. Your other family will be waiting for you on Tuesday, which was the nicest thing anybody said about me being away last week. I appreciate it very much, which gets us to the finish line. I've got a couple of nice photos. We want to make mention of this regatta, which took place over the weekend. It's my favorite regatta on the West Coast. I don't know if you've ever been, C. Ray, but this is the famously good Long Point Race Week, co-hosted by Newport Harbor Yacht Club and Balboa Yacht Club. Any of you ever gets a chance to sail in it, it's a 3-day regatta, sail from Newport Beach out to Catalina on Friday, go up around a ship rock called Ship Rock on Saturday, a quick 2-hour, 3-hour race. Water's warm, parties before, during, and after, well, not so much during, after racing. And then a race from Catalina, it's really to the north, back to Newport Beach on Sunday, and it's a close reach usually, or a reach. And it's just a fabulous race. This is the scene after the racing. Everybody rafts up. People have tenders on which to sleep. And this is, I think, John Sangmeister's Dragonfly right there in the middle. This is the scene at night. So it's parties on the water after some great racing. And then this is the Newport Harbor Yacht Club station at Catalina, where they have a dinner one night at their station and the next night at the Balboa Yacht Club station. They take turns hosting all the sailors on shore. Fabulous stuff. If you ever get a chance to sail a Long Point Race Week, I highly recommend it. Limited to 40 boats, big boats. And we had the past Commodore, Bill Dana, was down there this year sailing and did, middle of the pack. Finally, we have this beautiful shot from another Fozy that's probably pretty late there now. What time is it? 2200 UT, so it's after midnight on the continent. And this is Ivan Grekov, our Bulgarian Fozy, and he is in Palermo. He's headed to Sardinia, and he's going to check out the Italian AC base, he told me. And he's in Palermo on their way, so in Sicily, and he's drinking the local beer, sent that along and said, cheers to all of us watching. I'd never heard of this beer, probably never will again either, but I thought that was nice from Ivan Grekov, our Bulgarian Fozy. Julia, you're a witness.
Yes, there are lots of things to like, follow, and share at this time. And
2 hours and 21 minutes, a long show, but a great one. And C. Ray, we really appreciate very much your coming on. Thank you very much indeed.
That was a blast. Thank you.
We'll
yes, indeed.
Do it again when you've shot your next 100,000 photos or whatever.
No, it's terrific. Yeah.
It really
Thanks
was.
again.
Thank you very much. And see you all again. I'll be clean shaven, I promise, on Friday. And we want to thank all of you who support us via In fact, what I was going to say is the reason I can't afford a razor because we're not getting enough support.
I'll verify that.
We're not getting enough support via Patreon, so I can't afford a razor. Right?
Right.
Stingray said I look like Captain Ramius, like Sean Connery. That's a compliment. He's a very handsome. The late great Sean Connery. That's still that's my favorite movie. Stingray. Stingray doesn't know that. Hunting for Red October. But if you will support us on Patreon, I'll be able to afford some Gillette throwaway razors. Patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. And hope to see you then. In the meantime, thanks, Julie. Any last thoughts?
No, it's nice to have everybody together always.
C. Ray, any last thoughts?
Can't add to that.
Great show. Tom Pace, down Commodore of the Pensacola Yacht Club. Scruffy, keep the beard. Hashtag keep the beard. Oh, gosh. Mary Longpree is a superb photographer. She is the Chris Ray of Newport Beach of Balboa Yacht Club. Maybe Chris Ray is the Mary Longpree. And Ted Ryman, Chris is a cool dude. Great to see him on the show. Yes, he is a terrific guy and a good friend, and we hope to have him back soon. Hope to see you all on Friday. In the meantime, if you can, we hope you will sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Thanks. Ciao for now.